my wife at the time said that she had cancer.
She's getting millions of views on every single video. This is now funding her lifestyle.
So $800,000 for one guy, $600,000 for another guy. I did not want to have to really come forward, but I had a private practice optometry clinic. I hired her best friend. And so we were introduced, I call her Erin in the story. We were introduced by Erin. She worked for me. And she's like, I have a friend and all this stuff and, showed me pictures. And so we started talking in that regards.
Like she's trying to set you up with her?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Like she was like, hey, I have, and so we went out a couple times and started, hanging out and really just, hitting it off in a lot of ways. And at that time, because I own my own business, I'm very, very business like focused on it, So for her, I think that was the way that she is. She's like a chameleon. She will mimic your moves. If I was into this, she's into this.
Right.
So I was really big into, building the business, building the practice, and she was all about that. So I felt like we really connected over that drive. And she said she had done other business things in the past, but it turns out she didn't.
Yeah.
But I was like, so we really connected on, false things, but really knew that was what would connect with me. And so, got married. We met in 2017, got married in 2018. And so
that's fast.
Yeah, it was fast. Yeah. So
was it fast just because she was like super cool and amazing? And
yeah, it really was. It was basically, I was at a place in my life where, I was in my early 30s. I had accomplished everything and I was ready for that next step. And, I think she took advantage of that aspect of, I had my business, I had a house, I had all these things. So I was looking for the next aspect of my life, which was a relationship. So I felt like, guiding that, aspect of her where she really took advantage and how she operates and really, we're step for step, every, step of the way where I'm just like, oh, I met my soulmate,
right.
And so, yeah, it was, obviously pretty fast. And from there, that's where she kind of got involved in my practice and started, kind of being like the tech office manager and really helping out with, build the business.
What was she doing for a living when you met her?
So she said that she was working at a special needs school as like a teacher.
Was that true?
I mean, no.
Why? I mean, how do you here's the thing.
Yeah.
Wait, did you find all this out later?
Later.
But I mean, so
in real time, yeah.
I was gonna say while you were dating her, because obviously something's not right? Like, I mean, but if you're constantly lying about stuff, then every once in a while you're probably going to slip up, or you're going to bump into some. You're talking to her best friend. At some point, the best friend, you're going to say, "Oh yeah, this is what she told me the other day," and then she's going to be like, "That's not what she told me," or like, do those things come up, and then she just has an explanation, and you accept the explanation?
Yeah. So yeah, she always had like a explanation for all these things that happened, or if it wasn't, it was a misunderstanding, or I misunderstood. It's a lot of gaslighting in that regards.
Right.
But to even go a step further, I even picked her up for lunch at this school. So now I'm thinking, not now, but like after I found out everything, I'm just like, did she drive to the school, park in the parking lot, and wait out front for me to pick her up? And I'm like, yeah, she absolutely did that. So yeah, so it's not like I didn't go to the school, and I didn't go like to her classroom. We didn't go in. It was a quick little pick up and go to lunch type of deal. So like, at the time you're thinking, no one's going to drive there and pretend that they work there and just wait for you.
Well, did you ever see Dirty John?
No, I haven't. I've heard about that a lot lately.
Dirty John, the guy he's stealing from. Well, he was like a nurse or something. I forget, but he said he was like a doctor, and he would go to different hospitals, and you walk in, and so the woman can walk in, and he's in there in the waiting room, or talking to somebody and walking out. Hey, what's going on? Hey, and walks out, and he looks like a doctor, acts like a doctor. I drop him off at the hospital. He's in the hospital all the time. But there's other. I was gonna say a common thing to use for like con men is. What do you call it? They call them HQs, headquarters. They have them in every city where it's a virtual office, right? So you can pay a fee to have them answer your phones as whatever business you want. So they'll say, "Hey, Express Tax Services. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson isn't in right now." Or, "Oh, hold on, let me see if I can transfer you." And they'll put you on hold and they'll call your cell phone and say, "Hey, so and so's on the line. Do you want me to transfer him?" Yes. You pay like $120.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they'll charge you per minute after so many minutes. But if you want to meet somebody there, you can go there. You can rent an office. You can rent a conference room. And so when the person shows up and they say, "Hi, I'm here to see Mr. Johnson," they'll go, "Oh, hold on a second. He's in his office." And they click. So it's almost like they're helping the scam.
Right. Yeah. So
and
they're
then,
none the wiser.
Yeah. So, or they'll pick you up. So, well, follow me. They'll lead you down there. Can I get you a Coke? No, Jennifer, we're good. Talk to them in the office for a minute or whatever, or say, or you'll walk out of the office and say, "Hey, let's talk in the conference room." So people are walking by. It's this massive office on the 22nd floor. Like, obviously, you're legit.
Yeah, that sounds like this, like that type of stuff. Yeah. So on the
She may
operation,
use that. If she watches this, she can use that.
Yeah. Scammer tip.
What was it? There's actually a movie called, Empire. And the guy that cons this guy out of several $1 million, he uses that. And so when he disappears, the guy that got ripped off shows up at the office and walks in there. He's like, "Hey, is Tim here?" And they're like, "Tim who?" "Tim, Bradley." She's like, "Who?" And then he's like, "He owns the whole, this is his office. He owns this whole place." And she's like, "Oh, no, sir, this is a rent space. We rent offices."
Yeah.
And then she's like, "What's it?" And then it says the name of the corporation or the business. And she's like, "Oh, yeah. No, they were here for a few months. Yeah, no, they didn't renew their lease.
Like they set it up for, a certain amount of time."
And
this is like, stuff.
Yeah. But when the guy meets him there, he walks up, he's like, "Hey, Jennifer, do you want anything to drink?" And he's like, "Oh, no, I'm good." He's like, "Jennifer, can you get me a such and such?" She's like, "Sure." Gets up. Like, they know, you think they know each other. This is the receptionist. We know each other.
From the whole outside, it seems like the legit business.
Because most people do not think,
Right.
and I would say this, most people are not hyper aware or alert for fraud. They just don't think it. They want what you're saying to be true.
Right.
They don't even question it.
Right.
So if you do have a question, you go, "I thought you said this the other day." They're not thinking gotcha. They're just thinking, "I thought you said that you."
Right. It was a mistake.
Yeah, I thought you said you had a Mitsubishi.
Yes.
And no, did I say a Mitsubishi? No. And you're like, "Oh, I must have misunderstood." It's done.
Exactly. And those little small things, you can tend to overlook them.
Right.
And then all of a sudden.
And you want to.
Right.
Especially if she's a pretty girl. She's
Right.
nice. You're both interested in the same thing.
Yeah.
I want what you're saying to be true.
Exactly. And why would this person want to?
Right.
Like, what's their goal? What's the benefit? Yeah. And that, as we go along with this, that was always kind of my back thought of this is like, all right, this is probably her, but like, what benefit is she gaining?
Right.
What's the point of this? Like, this is really, sick to do all these things, and there's like not really some benefit,
Right.
So these are exactly right. Where I'm going there and I'm just like, okay, yeah, obviously you work here, you're out front. Like I'm not even like really registering that like she would put this much time and effort to, trick me and
To rope you in. Yeah.
Right. So after she worked there, that's when, the office, like she kind of came in and, was kind of office manager, but you mentioned about her friend. Well, this is kind of what she does, like triangulates, where she started having issues with her friend. So her friend probably only worked for me for maybe another month or two after, because again, there would be a lot of those scenarios. Hey, catch him in lies and different things. So in my mind, she didn't want to have that. So she kind of made this, I won't say a riff, but it definitely was like, well, I'm not trying to have problems here between, you guys, we're kind of dating now.
Right.
So that her friend ended up, leaving.
Right.
So that kind of left it, isolating where, I don't have that person to really double check like, hey, yeah, you're not saying the same thing you're saying.
You didn't go to Harvard.
So, right. Exactly. So
Jennifer said you didn't graduate high school.
Yeah. Or like the beauty, like when she did, like she did her hair, and like destroyed her hair. So like those stories, you don't get that confirmation on it, but yeah. So shortly thereafter, she's basically breaking up the whole dynamic. So I probably can't double check these things or verify these things. So I had a contract for this building that I signed. In the story, I call him Mr. Khan. He was the landlord. And basically, in March of 2018, we signed the lease for 3 years. And in July, he told us that he was going to sell the building. And on the day that he said he was going to sell the building, it turns out he ended up in a nursing home with like a head injury. And it was like, okay, like everything okay, whatnot. He signed over the building, his personal property, and he did like a last will and testament. And he was going to sell the building, like, because we asked his real estate agent, like, how much is the building going to be? They're like, oh, it's going to be like 800,000 for the building. It's like, okay, well, I'm not buying that,
Right.
So just kind of curious, but the point of that is really in the nursing home, he signed over these documents and gave the building away to another tenant for free, essentially. And then he died in August. So basically within 2 weeks, he signed everything over. And the new tenant, well, I should say the new landlord, that was a tenant in the building, knocks on my door and was like, hey, I'm the new owner. You owe me rent. And I was like, well, I need, my lease updated. I have no problem paying you if you do own this building. I find it a little bit weird that, he was going to sell it and now he's just giving it away. And so she never wanted to update my lease. She would never actually change the lease to it. And so I paid rent to Mr. Khan still for August, the month he passed. I put it under the door. And so I didn't pay rent to her because she refused to update it. So she eventually filed to like have me evicted out of my practice. Mm-hmm. And this is where this all really starts is my wife at the time said that she knew an attorney that could help us, to fight this like landlord tenant dispute situation. And she was like, oh, it's an attorney I used in the past, like back home because she's from Indiana. And I was like, well, that'd be great if you know somebody. And so she started communicating with this attorney, which is called Lauren. Her name's Lauren. And so long story short of this is basically I'm thinking that we're gearing up for landlord-tenant court to go over this dispute. Hey, just add my name to the lease, no issues. Well, that never happened. They actually evicted us. And so when we got evicted, it basically was out of the blue because I was just like, well, what happened with Lauren? Like, why is she not handling this? Like you said, all these things. So, I don't know. Long story of that part of it is that I'm thinking that I have an attorney, someone that she knows she's been communicating with and trying to handle this, wrongful eviction, this whole contract dispute of who's the rightful landlord, who's not. And so it ended up being that we had to leave and I was just like dumbfounded. I was like, well, I thought we were going to be,
Did you ever
there?
say, I want to talk to Lauren? She's representing me.
Yeah. So exactly. So anytime I wanted to physically talk to Lauren or set a meeting, upset would occur. Like, why you don't trust me? Like she's handling it, all this stuff. And these are some of those like points of like, I mean, looking back, like there was definitely those like signs where I was just like, this is weird. But, again, it's like, why would you, there's no gain in you to like make up this whole thing essentially. So it's like, if you're upset by it, I understand, talk with her, figure it out, we'll go, whatever the recommendations are and things like that. So basically, I don't know if you want me to get to like the end of that or build all the way up on that. But
I mean, does she not exist?
Yeah. So basically over the next year, we've already been evicted out of the office. I had a guy come and get all my equipment because I couldn't, we were leaving essentially.
Right.
So this guy, basically his name is Jeff in the story. Jeff comes to my office the day that we're being evicted and takes all my equipment out of there. He's the one I bought the equipment from. So like, I knew he knew how to like handle it. And he's like, hey, this equipment is like temperature controlled. Like you gotta like, you just can't put it in the storage unit. Like I was with like some of the other stuff. He's like, I'll hang on to this for you and, protect it. So he came and took away the stuff. So now we're officially out of that office. Fortunately, I had a second office that I actually opened. So we were basically primarily working out of this second office. So I was still just kind of continuing on and we were communicating with, Lauren. I was communicating with her via text, via email. And then, she would be communicating with her in other, avenues, text, email, and sometimes on the phone, like in front of me. Like sometimes she'd be talking to her apparently. So yeah, so all these illusions of this person, but nothing is ever moving forward. And so after about like 6 months of just the runaround and just being like, what is going on here? Kind of calling her out as far as, is she real? Like, why is, how do you know her? All these different things. But all of a sudden I get a forwarded email from a banker and a judge. And like, it was a real judge. But she forwarded this from Lauren's email. She forwarded from these two people and basically was like, hey, the lawsuit that I've been working on, it got settled and the funds should be available soon. Because basically we were going to go after them after we got evicted for wrongful eviction, essentially. So that's what that case ended up turning into, is that they wouldn't update the contract. They broke the contract. They never, did things on the up and up. So, we're going after them for breach of contract, loss of income, et cetera. So she's saying that basically the judge is letting me know. So there's all these emails coming in now from places, if you will. Like, this is on the brink of like COVID happening. So basically this is now reached into like 2019. And when we get into COVID, like everything like shut down. So, courts were down and everything like that, communication. So it's just kind of where things fizzled out with that. But that's where, Lauren is still somewhat in this like communication with my wife and me and, trying to get this money from the judge, from the bank, basically, couldn't get it because everything was just like shut down. In my mind, like obviously for her, it's like this bought her like another 6 to 8 months essentially of like, hey, you can't do anything about it, So.
Is the email from Lauren like a Gmail or is it like at so-and-so law firm?
Yeah. So the email account, because this was like her friend that she knew, it was under a Gmail account at this time. So she was at her name at Gmail. And what I was told is because that she was doing this as a favor, she wasn't going through like her traditional, like at, whatever law firm. But
it wasn't like at, Cumberland and
correct.
and Chives,
yes,
law firm.
Yes. But that comes into play later. So later on, when I finally like had enough of it, she actually bought a domain name to create a
fake law firm.
Yes.
And when she's talking on the phone, is she actually on a call? Like, is she on her voicemail call or is she just empty phone?
Yeah. So, I think there was probably a couple of times for both. I did hear someone speaking back a lot of times, but I could never make out like what they were saying or hear it. So I think some of them were like calls probably about, maybe she called her mom and was like, hey, I'm going to have this conversation, like play along. So yeah, so there was definitely, I heard voices sometimes, and then sometimes it was just her talking and things like that. So she basically created this all out of this, building lawsuit, if you will. Right. And so this is really where the fraud originated from, if you will, in my mind, for where she really came into play, is trying to figure out this building and all this stuff and creating a fake attorney, essentially.
Right. So is she pregnant at this time? Do you have kids at this time?
So in 2019, we had our first daughter together. So she had 2 previously. And so...
Did they live with you?
Yep. So they lived with us. And then her oldest daughter would go back and forth. But the dad, and this is how she met Lauren, supposedly, is her oldest son. When she lived in Indiana, apparently there was some lawsuit because there was some like SA situations. She said that she sued him and all this stuff. So she has like full custody of the son, because she told me his dad was basically in jail. So basically this attorney that she introduced me to, that's the situation that they knew them for.
Does that end up being true or
no?
Okay. God, it's so hard to figure out.
Yeah,
because I was going to say, man, you might want to write that guy a letter.
Yeah. Like, so yeah. So none of it's true, but so again, yeah, all this time, throughout all this time, it truly is like sorting out what's true, what's BS, and it turns out there's a lot more the BS than what's actually true.
So I mean, you're still going on. You're still, you got the one office. There's no lawsuit. It's COVID. Everything's kind of shut down. Mm-hmm. I mean, when is there other stuff here going on, or when do things start unraveling? Like, I mean, are you seeing any signs? Like,
do you find out about one thing, or do you don't kind of give away anything, but do you find it all out at once, or it's like, I caught her out on this, but we kept on going? Like, what's the
So sort of. So basically her strategy, what I've realized now is when I start to figure out like the Lauren situation, things are not making a lot of sense and I'm basically coming to a head of things, a new chaos ensues.
Right.
So and that's something that will trigger because before the Lauren situation kind of came to a head, so I owed for that optometry equipment that Jeff was storing for me. So I was like, I need to pay off this loan. Like, not working right now, but like I have this equipment he's storing. So I went to reach out to Jeff to sell the equipment for me to get the money.
Right.
So it was weird because everything was really good with communication at first. And then all of a sudden, it broke down. And then essentially he said he had money for me and I would get it, but I never did. Long story short of that situation is what I found out afterwards is she actually sold that equipment. She contacted Jeff behind my back and asked Jeff to sell the equipment in 2019. So in 2020, when I was asking him to sell it for me, what I came to find out, the number of my phone was not his number. So she had actually gone into my phone and changed Jeff's number in my phone to basically her burner numbers. So I'm thinking I'm talking to Jeff about selling my equipment, but I'm actually talking to her. And
because you're texting.
So I'm texting and I have his number. So just texting about all this stuff. So turns out I'm talking to her thinking I'm talking to Jeff and my equipment has already been sold, which she already knew. So when I started talking about selling the equipment in 2020, I'm sure she was like, oh my goodness. And that's when she went in my phone and changed the contact and change it to her number. So I'm thinking that he's selling the equipment for me.
Kind of genius.
So, and so that's what that part really messed with a lot for me because I'm still on the hook for the loan. I now don't have I didn't able to sell the equipment. And how do you prove it? Right. Like, how do you go to the police and like, this was a crime.
Yeah.
Well, when I did that, like you said, it's kind of genius because they were just like, we can't do anything about this essentially. And so because of the scenario, it's like, as soon as you mention your wife or ex-wife at the time and, changing numbers, it's so diabolical that like,
they think you're crazy.
Right. Or they think you were in on it. And this is some elaborate plan to, basically pass this off of like,
say identity theft or something. So
right.
I don't owe the loan.
Right.
Like,
exactly. It's so deep when you get into like the detail of like that scheme. So I'm thinking for 6 to 8 months that I'm communicating with this guy about my equipment and really it's her on a burner phone. And I didn't find that out until one day I just, instead of going to Jeff on, typing in Jeff on my phone, I looked up his number because I didn't obviously memorize it. I just typed in Jeff's actual number and it populated on my phone under name Uncle Tony. And I don't have an Uncle Tony. And so she changed his name on my phone to some random name. So so she really went through and really
while you're married.
This is while we're married.
It's so insane. It's like you hear these stories and it's like, oh, like my business partner screwed me over, this random guy I met. Like this is your wife.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Like, so, and I know I texted you this. I said like, bro, like, is this she sounds like a pathological liar. And you were like, well, I just think she's probably a psychopath or sociopath. Something you said. But you understand that you have to be a psychopath or sociopath to be a pathological liar. You know what I'm saying? You have to have you have to suffer from antisocial disorder. And when you say you're the husband, I wrote a book about a guy named Marcus Schrenker, who, I don't know if you remember this, in 2009 during the financial crisis, this guy he was under investigation for securities fraud. His offices had been raided. He goes and gets in his airplane. He wasn't arrested, but it's coming. He gets in his private aircraft. He flies out he's actually over Alabama, I think, when he jumps out. Calls in a distress signal, says his window is spider cracking. I'm bleeding, it's imploded. And he puts a parachute out and jumps out of the plane. He thinks it's going to go out over the Gulf and it'll crash and it'll be lost. It actually runs out because he opens the door and the drag on the plane caused it to burn more fuel trying to get back up. And so it runs out of fuel a few miles early of the Gulf, crashes in the wooded area. They find out immediately, like, everything's torn off this plane, but the windshield, which the guy said imploded, is in perfect shape. there's no blood.
Yeah.
And there's like a KOA campgrounds atlas, like in it was just, they called him at the KOA campsite and like 3 days later. Anyway, it's a total idiot. But he's a pathological liar. I mean, that's not me saying it. That's like the government's employ everybody, and the government's a psychiatrist saying it, everybody. And he was married to this woman for like 15 years. And she just, anything that would go wrong with him, with most pathological liars, because I did a bunch of research on it, right? I've read like 3 books, a bunch of research material, which is 20, 30 pages long, these little pamphlets that they put out on their research. And so if a man, and I saw this with him because I interviewed him, of course, for months, and I would paint him into a corner like, bro, you said this, I got this, I got this, I get this. And he'd get angry. He'd go, you know what? I don't have to fucking put up with this bullshit, bro. I don't have to put up with this. You think I'm lying? Why would I lie? I'm done talking to you. And he'd walk off to get himself. And then I'd think, that's it. We're done.
Right.
3 days later, he'd walk up to me into like the library and go, hey, he'd say, when are we meeting again?
Like, nothing happened. Yeah.
And so for men, like 95% of the time, it's anger. That's their defense mechanism to get out of this an uncomfortable situation when their lies are kind of caving in on them. And for women, it's tears. They will typically start crying. You don't believe me, Mark. How could you do this?
Yes.
And then they'll run off.
Right.
Or slam the door, close the door. Just leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you. And you're like,
it's more that victim kind of mentality.
Right. So because to me, and the other thing about it is, I wanted to mention about pathological liars is, you keep saying, what is the goal? Like, why would she lie about that? What's the goal? There's no money in it. There's no reason for her to lie. It's something, it's trivial. It's stupid. Why would you lie about your past? You understand? There are different types of pathological liars. One of it is I'm going to say it wrong. It's basically like a fantastical pathological liar. I'm saying it wrong though, but it has to do with fantasy. He actually had created a couple different versions of his life that he told people throughout it since he was in college. He had told people that he worked at NASA. Not all the time, but he had worked at NASA. He had interned there. He used to fly these T-11 fighter jets that only NASA pilots fly. Then as he got older, it was that he had I forget which one broke up on reentry. I think it's Discovery or Enterprise, whichever one broke up. He was on the team that investigated when they took off and the ice had damaged the wing, and he told NASA that was an issue. It was always stuff with NASA. Or the other one he had said was that he had flown like A-10 Warthogs in Operation Desert Storm. He would have been 18 years old.
Right.
There are no, like, the youngest fighter pilot in history is like 22 years old. So it's all, and it's, and sometimes it was the Army. He's flying for the Army, or he's flying F-16s for the Air Force. So it's, it depends on who you talk to, but you talk to somebody, and he had told these stories to many, many people. There were newspaper articles about, with Marcus, you never know about that guy. He would tell us about flying all these sorties during Operation Desert Storm, and it's like, he wasn't wasn't in the military. Like, so there were lots of stories that there was no benefit to the lies he would tell, but he told them because partially it was a way to boost his ego, and pathological liars, they've studied them, and they get like an endorphin rush by fooling you. That's what's so weird.
That's what I kind of concluded.
Right, that it makes no sense other than you're talking about something, and suddenly he'd suddenly have a similar story, and he'd kind of one-up you, and then if you totally believed it and started asking it, he felt good about that.
Yeah. It's like the tricking aspect. The scam or the fraud or the lie becomes mainly the goal.
Right. It's not really about money. You're thinking, because to me, it's like, I'll lie to you.
Right.
But I have a business. I have a specific agenda. I need you to believe this so I can make money. I'm not opposed to lying in furtherance of a scam, but I'm not going to lie to you just because.
Just a lie. Yeah.
It doesn't make, so it would drive me nuts dealing with him.
No, and those are probably some of the worst ones because like that part doesn't make sense. But other than like you said, them
But that's
feeling
why they get away with it.
yes, and they do pick people that victim wise that are I think more I won't say understanding, but it would just
Well, yeah. It's like for instance, his wife was I don't want to say an enabler, but in a way she was. I don't want to say she wasn't a battered woman, but she had, you're trying to keep this guy on an even keel. First of all, he's paying all the bills, of course, he's also running a Ponzi scheme. But she doesn't really realize that. And she's living in a fucking $3 million house.
Yeah.
She's got 2 planes. They've got brand new vehicles. Their kids are in private school. Like she's living the life.
Right.
Like, and periodically he gets upset or if I start to question him. So she just stops kind of questioning him because
yeah.
I never really catch him and he wouldn't admit it anyway. And what's the goal here?
Yeah.
Like,
I kind of say that a lot of times in the series where it's like I kind of stopped asking her because if ask a pathological liar for the truth, you're gonna get more lies.
Yeah,
so
that's really exactly what it is. It's just going to keep lie. Yeah. They're not going to say.
Never going to get like a moment of like, oh,
absolutely,
like here, this is everything. Here's the truth.
Yeah, she's never going to say, oh, "You got me." Listen, I was just totally lying about that, and I don't know why I do.
Exactly. And most people like the jig's up. Like, okay, you caught me. Like, I'm just I got out of hand here. But no, it's like. It's like, no, I'm going to double down. Like, and that's what I realize is that she'll lie about her. Like, I kind of even say, like, I can have a picture of her out somewhere. Like, this is you on this day. And she's like, oh, that's not me. Like,
yeah.
like legit just tell you that was another day or that looks like me, whatever. It's like, they will convince you any way possible that lying on a lie.
Listen, this is the funniest thing. First of all, you couldn't embarrass this guy Shrinker. You couldn't embarrass him. And listen, I was locked up for a long time, so I've known lots of pathological liars, lots of guys. But the funniest thing with him, and then I'll get off that, and we can keep moving forward.
No.
But you'll like this explanation. So one time, keep in mind, I've ordered all of his documents because I don't believe anything he says. I'm writing a book on him, but I don't believe you.
Oh yeah,
like
exactly.
I'm going through. You're telling me some stuff, and so I've ordered all the Freedom of Information Act. I've ordered his public records, everything. I have a stack of paperwork. So one day I come to him and I say, hey, listen, so at this point, is this when you were, because he's kind of telling me the story chronologically. And I said, at this point, like, this is when you start getting sued, right? And he goes, man, I was never sued. And I went, no, you were sued. I mean, the newspapers, they said you were sued. And he goes,
yeah.
Matt, they lie. They lied about you. And I went, no, they didn't. I wasn't thrilled with what they said,
right?
But they didn't lie.
Yeah.
So they were pretty close. There was some that's questionable. Yeah. My Audi wasn't gray; it was silver. But anyway, so and I was like, "What do you mean you were?" And then of course I know the lie's coming. So now I know it's. I said, "So you were never personally sued?" He goes, "No." I go, "Were you ever sued on behalf of the company because he owned a wealth management company?" He goes, "No." And then I went, was the company ever sued? He goes, no, you think I would know if we were sued.
Right.
And I went, right. I said, so here's the thing. Mutual Life sued you, and I have the documents.
Right. That's it, 100%.
I have where it was served. He signed it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, you were signed, you served here, you signed here.
Exactly.
This is and I go, they wanted $1.5 million of their money back, their commissions back. And he goes, what? Where did you get this?
Yeah. You made this up.
And then I said, whoa, that's not it. And he goes, no, no. I never should have been. This is not accurate. And I went, okay. I said, is that the only one? He's like, yeah, no, this is it. I go, okay, boom. Heritage Wealth Management was sued by AG, Life such and such. They want $4.5 million of their commission money back. Well, he goes, no, I never should have been sued here. And I'm like, well, okay. And then, I pull out like 4 of them in a row. Boom, boom, boom. And I go, and he goes, oh, okay. He goes, I understand why you're confused. I go, I'm confused because you're lying.
Yeah.
And he said, no, I get it. He said, yeah, Matt, he said, they sued the company. I said, no. They sued you individually. They sued you as the CEO of the company, and they sued the company. And he just said every one of those was untrue.
Right.
And I said, so they sued all of them. He goes, Matt.
Silly you.
He goes, Matt, I owned a large wealth management company. He goes, of course we were sued. We were sued all the time.
Right.
He goes, it would be ridiculous if we weren't sued. Right. And I went, oh, okay. I said, so tell me about the first one. Because there's no reason to get into a dispute about that at this point.
Right.
He's going to just lie.
Right.
And I go, tell me about the first time you were sued on this one. He's like, oh, okay. Well, see, what happened with this one? And he starts explaining it. And it's just like, do you understand it? Within a minute and a half, you went from Matt, we've never been sued, I would obviously know that, to, of course we were sued. We were sued all the time.
Right.
It would be ridiculous if we weren't sued.
Yeah, exactly.
And not embarrassed. There's no embarrassment in his face. No, he just kept right on rolling.
I was gonna say, catch him in the lie, and like there's no just go with it. It's just it's
horrible.
Well, dealing with that type of person, let alone in that situation, but like dating that person, nightmare.
Which is where you, and like you said, it kind of just wore you down.
It did, eventually, because again, this is what we're talking about, but this is still not even getting into her cancer that she had. So like we're talking about the initial stuff of the story, like what you're saying, is stuff with my practice, the the attorney situation, the lawsuit, my equipment that she had already sold, but still leading me on to think I'm talking to him and I'm still going to get some money for this. Well, in the end of COVID, well, not the end of COVID, but October of 2020, she's now telling me that she has like a lump on her arm, and now she's pregnant with our second child, as she mentioned as well. Well, she can back up one further. So over the summer, when she first told me she was pregnant with our second child, she told me we had twins. And so again, during COVID, I couldn't go to doctor's appointments. I'm relying on a pathological liar during COVID to give me good information. So I'm presented a ultrasound that doesn't really look like twins, but there's the writing on it that tells me that I should say it's twins. And then, I'm just like, well, let's go to it was a third party, because we could go to the hospital. It was like a just independent person. So finally, after a couple months, we went. Only one baby. And she's like, I think I might have lost one. I'm like, well, that's, again, like horrible, like very like sympathetic, like, oh my gosh. So she goes to her regular doctor and tells me that, she did lose the second baby. But now, like,
is that real?
No. So for now, I have no doubt in my mind that she forged this and faked it for some kind of sympathy, some kind of like emotional aspect to it. I don't know, but like at the same time, it's like we were talking before. It's like,
is it like to be special? Maybe. I mean, you don't know.
Exactly. It's like,
there's no answer.
Well, I will say two things. I think we had a sitter at the time, and I think it was to manipulate her a little bit emotionally because, just that's, again, it's like a trauma story. Someone that relates to that. So I think she uses a lot of these type of stories to reel people in, feel sympathy, feel victimized, and it's weird, but
that wouldn't work on me. I got no sympathy.
Yeah. So like, all of a sudden, we have going from this to one. And again, I have no evidence or proof that we ever had actual twins at any time, but this is what I'm told. And, so again, that's something I'm just during COVID, again, I can't go, but like, why, no one's forcing you to pretend to have twins. Why just make that up to have to explain that away like that?
why would Shrinker say he was a fighter pilot? Keep in mind too, this guy's got a degree in aeronautics. He owns a wealth management company. He lives in a $3 million house. He has 2 airplanes. He's a stunt pilot. Like, you're a top tier individual. You don't have to lie and say, oh yeah, and I used to fly fighter jets and I used to work for NASA. Like, you're already top tier.
Right.
It benefit, like, everybody's already impressed.
Right.
Beautiful wife, gorgeous kids, making money. Like,
but like you said,
what's the benefit?
Yeah. And that's like you said, they get something about the lie because, it's like there's no reason you would lie about having twins, knowing that you're not going to have twins, but it's something about, convincing it or playing that off. But that was over the summer of 2020. And then October, that's when she had this like lump on her arm, and she was like, I need to get this checked out. I'm like, absolutely, go get it checked out. And this is the first time I would say that she really kind of maybe took some money from me, because she's like, the test's like $3,000 to have this scan. I said, that's fine, no problem. Like, obviously, like, you're not gonna not get that done. I believe that she walked in there and sat in the lobby for
grin it out and bear it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Rub some dirt on it.
Yeah. Literally. I'm pretty sure she sat in that lobby, counted the money, and was like, all right, probably leave now. this long enough for this test? Because again, I couldn't go in. So I'm in the parking lot, waiting for her to have this like scan done, So a week later, we're in the car together. And again, this is another time where like, who is on the other line?
Right.
She answers the call. I hear talking and I could see by her reaction, I was like, this might not go well. And then she's like, I have lymphoma, that scan came back and I have cancer. And I'm like, oh my gosh, And again, COVID could not go and verify with the doctors and, it's kind of HIPAA protected. So it's one of those things that in my mind to fake cancer at this point, again, kind of genius because it's 2020. No one is going in with you. You have nobody, even with her treatments and things like that. So it's all solo because they're a very high risk. So I couldn't go in with the doctors. I couldn't even, really do anything, for that. So it's, and I didn't have social media either at this time. I should probably say that too.
What did the lump on her arm look like?
So it looked like, basically from what I understand now, I think because she was pregnant, I think it was some like some milk, if you will, that was like hardened because it was basically like looked like a little bit of like extra skin, like some fat underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I palpated it. It was a little bit hard. So it definitely, it's not my area of expertise. So, I was thinking just get it checked out for sure. But yeah, it was basically this like, lump of skin that had a little, hardness to it as well. So I think now it was probably, it just hardened, some milk that was coming in, probably a warm compress.
Might have taken care of it.
Probably would have taken care of it.
Okay. Was there at this point? Are you
in real time? Yeah.
Are you realizing like at this point, like you're starting to? How long you been married?
So that would have been 2 years, 2.5 years.
Yeah, 2.5 years with this chick. At this point, was there a little part of you that thought, yes?
Yeah, it should have. Yeah,
cancer. That's horrible.
Yeah. Yeah. At that point, yeah. I mean, obviously, I had like a lot of mixed emotions for sure. I hate to say that, but like at this point, there's just so many things. It was just like, what else can go wrong? Like,
and at this point, I'm sorry to cut you off. At this point, you still don't know that the lawyer was fake.
Correct. I have my suspicions, but I don't have any.
It's kind of gone. Like,
yep. And at this point, I still don't really know the Jeff situation either. Like I know that I'm not getting the money. I'm getting the runaround. So I don't know the full. I don't. All this stuff does come to a head in 2021, essentially.
Yeah, so the dam hasn't broke yet.
That's not fully broke. Okay. But I guess what got me on this whole tangent was what you were saying earlier is like, do you figure out one thing and then the next? No, for her, it's like as I'm on to one thing, it's like, oh, well, now we got twins and I just had a miscarriage. Oh, okay. Well, now I'm on to maybe Jeff. Well, now I got cancer. So it's like as you're getting on to like, as you're maybe coming across like one, key piece of like, oh, I can like get my feet back on the ground and maybe have some sense of all this. It's like, nope, catastrophic events about to happen. And that's kind of what happened after the cancer not after, during the cancer. So October, when she was diagnosed with the cancer, she created this like whole page on TikTok and Facebook. And this is the part for me, like I never had social media, as you can probably tell with my social media. I'm very, very direct with it, awkward in a way, but I just didn't really do social media in any aspect. So she did her cancer journey TikTok pages. And this is where people online are just like, well, how would you not know? You're a doctor. Like, how would you not know? Well, how I didn't know is that, when I'd go to work, she would be at home wearing like a scarf on her head, taking pictures. She had like a fake port on her chest. I'm at work, and then she'd post it. Yeah, and then she posts online, and I'm not online. And the people that know me online assume that I'm going home to see this, so they're not going to be like, hey, did you see her scarf or her port? Like, obviously, if she has it, I would go home and see it.
Yeah, but you also think she's in the middle of. You also think she's in the middle of cancer treatment, right?
So, yes and no, but basically. In real life, meaning like in our everyday life, when she was going to these doctor visits because she was pregnant at the time, they said they were going to hold off on chemo. So they weren't going to do chemo until she gave birth. And so that was in real life, me and her communications, that was the understanding that I was told. Again, it kind of go back to earlier, like she tells me something, she tells the internet. I'm actively getting chemo. That's why I have this port. That's why I lost my hair and have this scarf. And I don't know that aspect. I know that she has cancer, but I'm just told that, we're holding off on the chemo until after the baby. So when I get home, no scarf, no port, I'm none the wiser. But online is thinking that like, she is getting treatment and things like that. So what I'm seeing in real life is very different than what she's posting on her like social media pages and her, lymphoma cancer journey. Yeah.
So what's the benefit? Like, is she raising money is she saying, hey, I need donations or?
Yeah. So there was a little bit, and I think the short term of this that I understand now, I think a lot of this was, she started owing some people money during this time. So I think a lot of this was actually like a sympathy thing because she actually, which we didn't get into, but she took $12,000 from like her son's teacher. And around that time, I found out that like he was looking for the money back. And so
how $12,000?
Yeah.
How did she get this guy for $12,000?
That part, he's never come forward to clear it up. But I've seen some emails. Basically, I don't know why she got the money, but she did, and she was supposed to pay him back. And then the sitter that we had right before COVID happened, apparently she was like said she was paying her, but she didn't pay her for like 2 months. So like she owed like the sitter like $5,000 or $6,000 too. So I don't know, was the cancer at that time in my mind, I don't think it was like a true like money payoff because from my end, there was like a GoFundMe and some t-shirts. And again, I don't want to downplay it by any means, but it was like $5,000. I think wasn't like the GoFundMe, which to go through all this effort for $5,000, I mean,
right.
Not really. I don't
worth
know.
it. Yeah. The combination, but the combination of that plus putting people off.
Right. So I started seeing emails where people were like, hey, can you meet me? Like the teacher. And it's like, oh, well, I have treatment today. I can't meet you. Oh, I'm not feeling well. So I started just realizing like this treatment could have been, or having this whole idea could have been to push people off to either feel bad and sorry or not meet them to pay them back. So I kind of have leaned towards that more recently, seeing it. But that kind of shifts when she meets some other people individually. So the internet cancer scheme in my mind, I think because she's just obsessed with social media and that whole regards. But I think the real cancer, like when she started getting a lot of money, it was like one-on-one with people, like where she would talk to them and say, I'm dying, and they would give her a lot of money, which we'll get into. Because I think that's when the cancer monetary avenue really opened up a lot more than like the GoFundMe and all the stuff that was going on at that time. So, and that could just be by design. So, so basically, she's
moving forward with it. She's
pregnant.
Yeah.
So
the kind of last thing you're saying was the double life. Like she's posting at this, you don't have social media, you're coming home, you're none the wiser.
Yes,
and she's pregnant.
Exactly.
That's coming up.
Yes. And so at this time, all of a sudden she needed like a liver transplant. And she said, yeah. And so she's sending me, or not sending me, but like basically she's presenting me her meds and rugs. I don't know. I don't know if you can say drugs or not. But
yeah, you can say drugs. Yeah.
Just drugs and, not chemo, but just drugs that she was going to be on. And so basically I started looking at them and I'm like, I don't think your doctors know what you're doing because these medications and your blood results, I go, this, I'm not, that's not my field, but I know what these medications do to the body. I know how your blood results should look taking these medications, and this ain't it. Well, all of a sudden, she says she talked to her doctors and they switched some medications and she was no longer needing a liver transplant and she recovered. And I was like, great, like obviously like, hey, solve that one. So I basically just told her, I go, and again, I can't go talk to the doctors and see them. So I'm just like, I don't know. I don't really trust your doctors at this point, because at this point I'm still, I'm on the verge of like my pregnant wife is dying of cancer and I'm going to be left with 4 kids, essentially, on my own. And so I'm still in that kind of mentality, if you will. But all of a sudden, I'm like, you need new doctors.
If I'm lucky.
Yeah.
If I'm lucky, that's what happens.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Probably would have been the better at this point. So I'm like, you need new doctors. I go, they don't know what they're doing. Like, I'm sorry. I don't want to be rude. I don't know them. I don't see them. And maybe, That's not, I don't, as a doctor, in a sense, you never want to colleagues, step on anyone's toes, especially that's not my expertise, but I'm just like, I don't know. Well, a week later, they're like, hey, they want me to go to the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville. They're going to co-manage with them. They're going to send all the results up there. So basically, I'm like, I question your doctors, and what does she do? Like we talked earlier. It's like, oh, you know what? The jig's up. Like, no, I got new doctors. So it's like you question her on the doctors, she'll just find new doctors. So that's what happened. So she got a referral, and now she was being co-managed with the Mayo Clinic. And so, in Jacksonville. So that covered.
Is she traveling up to Jacksonville?
Nope, they're just doing all the testing here, and then they're sending everything up for them to interpret it, obviously.
So now you can't, I can't go up there. I can't talk to the doctor.
Exactly.
They're not even local.
Exactly. So it's like, basically, it's all still being done here where you can't go, and we'll get all the results. So it's, and this is coming to the end of, 2020, and my youngest daughter, who is only one, not the one with the twins that wasn't a twin, but she's born in January of 21, essentially. And this is kind of where the cancer stuff kind of came to a head, in my opinion, because I was always told from her, again, in real life, not the stuff that she posts online, but after she gave birth, that's when they were going to start her on like the real hardcore drugs. And so I think that's when a lot of this stuff broke down for her, because now, like, I don't know how you can fully fake that in real life. To me, she was doing it online because she was doing the fake port. She had her cap on and posting it for her lymphoma journey online. So people online were thinking that she was getting chemo and, the whole shebang. But in real life, there was even a video online that she posted where she's like on the bed and like you think she's about to die. Well, I get home and I don't know what day that video was posted, but there was never a video where she was ever like on the verge of like death. You
didn't go in the comments and say, listen, I don't care what you're doing on Twitter right now or on TikTok right now, but when I get home, my dinner better be ready.
Yeah.
Better yank that scarf off and get cooking. I'm on my way.
Right, exactly. And so if I'm on social media, obviously I would see like way more. But yeah, I was living in real life, in real time, however you want to phrase that, a very different cancer patient versus what people were getting they're getting the full ordeal online in all. So, and this is again going back to, as we're trying to figure out all these things with the cancer and all the other stuff, about a month after my daughter's born, in January, well, in December, I should say, a month before she was born, my wife started sending me emails for the place we were living. The place that we were living, the payments were getting kicked back. And so I'm like, what's going on? And cause I was paying for that. And then she told me that she was going to take care of it 1 month. And I was like, okay. Long story short of that is that there was always an issue. Like it would go through, as you do those payments, they go through for like 5 days. It shows.
What about that cancer?
Yeah.
Well, what's going on with the cancer?
Right. Well, exactly. And like the fundraising and things like that. So like, is she using that to pay for this? I don't know. But either way, the rent payments get kicked back. They go through at first. I'm sure you know about the ACH payments. Like when you do a payment like that through a bank, it shows like always that it goes through, but it takes like 3 days before they kick it back, essentially.
If there's no money.
Right. So I'm seeing, I didn't really know that, to be honest, but I see it go through. It's covered. It's good. Great. And then thinking that rent's paid. And then 5 days later, bounces. And this is the part where I realized what she was really doing. So once she thought rent was paid, then my money could be used for other things, shopping, XYZ, because it looks like rent's paid.
Right.
Well, she knew that she couldn't do that again. So what she started doing is forwarding the rental company's emails to me. And she started changing all the stuff. Basically, on the emails, it would say, oh, we did get your payment. It went through. We're going to credit you for all the, stuff. And it's coming from like the company's, I'm sure you forwarded an email before?
Yeah.
And it showed like, if you do that, you could actually go in and type different things in there, but it still shows like
that it appears to have been forwarded.
Right.
from it was something that was sent to her and then forwarded to you.
Yeah, and you can see their email address, but the contents of the actual email they
Correct.
sent can be completely changed.
The original email is totally different. So I'm seeing these emails, and I didn't, again, going back to before, like I don't, I'm not in this realm of like, why would someone do this? So I'm not even, this is on my radar at the time. And so I'm thinking that rent's been paid. We are good to go. I'm getting all these emails coming in. Well, I know now, she forwarded them and altered them for me to not pay rent and do all this stuff. So the point of that story is, again, we're getting to a point where maybe I'm going to have more things figured out, or baby's born. She's going into the hardcore cancer treatment. Well, next thing I know, we're being evicted out of this house because apparently we haven't paid. But I'm like looking at these emails. I'm like, what's up with all these emails? Like they're telling me we're paid through, March or whatever time that was. And turns out, we weren't. So we got evicted out of there and had to go live with her grandparents. So again, it's the whole theory and strategy of this is like crazy, but it's like, as soon as you're onto this scenario or into this figuring out it's like, nope, pull the rug on it. You thought you were going to get close. Well, now we're homeless. Like essentially it's like, good luck with that. Like, so your mind is like, we're homeless. Like we got to find a place to live, or like, you're distracted. You're basically now, category, 5 alarm fire of where are we going to live? We have 4 kids now. You have cancer. You need to start your treatments. Like, yeah, it's a mess. And now we're living with her. And that was to me. So this is to me where like the rock bottom for me was, I'm like, you know what? This is what happened in my life. I had a house. I thought I had a wife and, kids, and had my practice. I had 2 practices. Now I have I'm like, in this short amount of time, I'm now living with my wife's grandparents, and they were super nice and amazing. But I'm just like, how did my life? I mean, that's why I'm just like.
Are any of them coming to you saying, listen, this chick's always been a train wreck?
So it's funny that you say that. Like afterwards,
what are you doing? What are you doing with her?
Let me talk to you outside.
Yeah. It was about a year after like we were separated, and like one of the uncles was like, "Yeah, I saw that coming," and I was just like, "Well, a little like a heads up would have been nice," like so. No, didn't come to me, but afterwards, they seemed so matter of fact of like, this was inevitable gonna be the result of this. Just like what?
She's left she's left
a trail of destruction.
Trail of destruction. You're not the only. There's tons of other homeless guys wandering around right now.
For sure. So so that's where I'm just looking around and I'm just like, man, we're living with my wife's grandparents. I have a baby now that's 2-3 months at this point.
Right.
And our other daughter's basically 2, plus her older kids. I'm just like, what's going on? Like, what? Let's just like, how did we get here? So the first thing that I did, well, throughout all this time, is she did have a shopping problem. Like she spends money like no one's business.
Right.
So that when we were in the grandparents, I cut that off. I was like, you're not to touch a card. You're not to take cash. Like you need something from Amazon or Target, you give me the list and I'll get it.
Right. Because
she would always be like, I'm just going to run a Target. I got to get like a thing of milk and some eggs. $400 later, it's like, what? This isn't what we talked about.
Right.
So she really like shopping addiction throughout, really throughout the relationship, obviously. But at that point, I was just like, I'm figuring, I got to figure out my life. And so far I know whatever you're telling me is not helping, or whatever you're doing. So I really kind of cut her off in a lot of respects at that point.
Assuming the marriage starts to deteriorate at that point, because that was probably a big draw for her. You know what I'm saying?
So that's exactly right. I mean, all the themes on this.
Yeah.
So the big draw, So I cut her off financially, and I was just like, the next move is going to be our own house. Like we're not going to be doing whatever we've been doing. I'll save every penny, that I make, and I will make sure it's all accounted for. Well. Yeah, within 2 months. So that we moved in there in March. So April, May, June. So 3 months. She met Gary. In the story, Gary is her grandmother's or grandparents, like one of their really good friends for like 20 years. He just got out of divorce. Basically.
How old's Gary?
He's probably in his 50s, 60s.
And how old are you?
So I'm 38 now.
How old was she?
She's just turned 30. So at that time she was like 20, maybe like 27, 28. So
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So So
kudos to Gary.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it didn't work out for him, but
Yeah. So we're staying with the grandparents, and they have these like parties over the summer, Memorial Day, July 4th. Like they just host a lot of, events. And she knew Gary well before because she kind of grew up there for the summers, and he's always been there. So like they did know each
I've known
other.
Gary since I was 7.
Yeah, like it is kind of in a weird way. Yeah,
Gary.
it's like So he's coming out of a relationship, divorced, and coming back to like the friend group. And I actually never met Gary because when me and my wife were together, he was out of the picture, going through his stuff. So when he came back in the picture, the times that he came over for the parties, I was actually sick. So I never like left the bedroom. So I never actually physically like met Gary even during that time, but I heard he was around and I heard of him. Well, turns out she started, again, I cut her off when we lived there. Mm-hmm. So she's, knowing what I know about her now, it's like, yeah, she's on the finding her next source. And so that's kind of when she sunk her claws into Gary.
They call them victims, and in my indictment they call him, well, he's on to his next victim.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, no, for real though, yeah. And so they started this relationship, and I don't know how in depth it was, but in August she got a place and told me that we're gonna move out, and it was all figured out and handled, and.
She got her own place?
Got a place for us, but it was like a house, basically.
Right.
Like basically, I was like, the next move that we do, it's going to be, a house. Like we're not doing whatever this is anymore. But she figured it out, and she told me, I mean, it was kind of a weird thing. She said that she had this like single mother, what do they call it? Grant, like a grant program, like for single mothers. And I'm just like, hey, I already know you're lying about that because that makes no sense.
Right.
And also, if that was a true grant, they're not going to give you, it was basically a new build. I mean, the house, I think it was near Clearwater. I think the house itself, when I looked it up, it was probably like a $800,000 house. The rent on it alone was like $4,600.
So
I'm
come
like,
up for a single mother, right?
well, yeah, I'm like, they're not giving grants.
She's not single.
Yeah, well, exactly. By the way, you're not single.
Yeah.
And by the way, this isn't probably they're not going to be doing any type of grants for this type of property, so. That's how she told me. She's like, oh, they cover X amount, so like the rent would only be $900. And she basically was like, I'm moving in there. You can move with me or without me. And at this point, we're with the grandparents. So I'm just like, I don't know. Like, so
I can't stay
like,
with Mima and people.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm just like, fine. So I go, but as I come to find out now, Gary co-signed on that place with her. And it obviously wasn't a single mother grant program, as you can imagine. So Gary is now very involved in her life, as I didn't really know how involved at the time, but I've come to find out how involved Gary is. And the short and the long of Gary is, over the course of 6 months, July, actually about 4 months, he gave about $800,000 to her. Yeah.
Wow.
And this is where what you were mentioning earlier, the cancer scheme. Well, in my world at this point, I pretty much know she doesn't have cancer. Because again, after she had our last baby, she was supposed to start all that treatment. Mm-hmm. We got evicted. It was kind of chaotic, but it's like she never went on, treatments. And so, but it's kind of expensive as well. It's like, it depends on who you talk to, you get a different story. Mm-hmm. Well, in Gary's world, she still had cancer. Right. And my world and grandma's world, we realized she didn't have cancer anymore. So,
do you ever ask her about that?
So when we moved there, she basically told me, and it turned out later on that she was searching for this, but on Google, but basically improvement. So basically from when we got to grandma's to when we moved into this next house in August, she was improving over that time. So she supposedly was in remission on our end from the grandparents and my end, that she was in remission by like August and September. But again, Gary, she's, made it Gary. I don't know the full facts on this, but I know that she had Gary was the grandparents' friend. How would he not be like, hey, is your granddaughter have cancer? Right. So she convinced him that, don't talk to my soon-to-be ex-husband. I'm sure she's telling him all that stuff. don't talk to my grandparents. They're basically forcing us out of here. So now Gary is like being isolated to not be able to fact check and talk to the grandparents. So he doesn't talk to the grandparents,
Right.
or anyone. Does she have cancer? Does she not? You know, he has her word in the gospel. So,
And I think on social media, she said that it was stage 4. Like,
yes,
it was, you know,
when she did her lymphoma journey, yeah, she got deep into the cancer journey. TikTok, well, it was TikTok, and on Facebook was, I think, the big ones. But she said stage 4, and that kind of plays out in a lot of different ways. Stage 4, yeah, I mean, it's like 6 months to live potentially.
Right.
I mean, you're
very seldomly are you bouncing back.
yeah, exactly.
and on this podcast that we listened to, kind of to do some research going into this, these, I guess, what was it? Her ex roommate still had her Gmail account where she could see her search history, where she was searching up all these things about cancer pictures, cancer, kind of just like, if you don't know anything about it, okay, what is this person going through? She's searching all this stuff up on Google, right?
Yes, yeah. Her searches came out through a roommate at some point, but yes, and they found out that during these times where she needed to produce blood results. So if you go to like the Facebook group or the TikTok page, wherever it shows, like she was sharing the journey about, here's my blood work report.
Right.
The day before or that day, it's like, what does, your blood work show for this? Yeah. Like, how would you feel like when you get a fever? So like they correlate. So she's basically Googling all that stuff, and then the remission stuff. Like, what would labs look like if you're improving from like cancer? How does that look? And so essentially, she's trying to now finagle. I'm getting better. Well, yeah, you got over $500,000. Like, I don't want to. You don't want to die. I want to live. So I need to get better real fast. So ended up being that she was in and again remission for us. Because that's what we were told. This she's getting better. She's in remission, and she's gonna ring the bell. I guess like the cancer bell at some point. Which
it's something she watched in a movie.
Exactly. I mean, and
poor Gary.
Yeah.
Gary's like Gary probably feels like he saved her life.
Well,
Gary, you saved her life.
And this is what I found out later in a lot of ways, because she told Gary that she not only has cancer, doesn't have much to live, but obviously she's living with an abusive husband, obviously. So she's trying to tell Gary that she's trying to escape me. This is why she needs the house. This is for all the kids. And, basically, tale as old as time, right? Like,
I mean, I was going to say, if there was ever a case for a man for abuse.
People have said that online, and it's like, people are like, when the tide kind of turned, people are like, if you actually did punch her, I wouldn't have been upset.
No.
So, but for real, so it's like at this point, we're seeing this all in a different light from what he's getting information on, and he's isolated. So he's not, I'm sure he's being told, once I get cured, we'll run off into the sunset together. I just got to get away from my husband. And, once I have my treatment and I'm better, I'm sure I'll be able to do more things with us. I'm sure, because it was probably strictly a lot of, text and emails. Like, I'm sick. I don't,
This reminds me of. I saw this on like TikTok or something, this story where this guy is this old a guy who's like whatever 60-year-old walks in with like a 25-year-old to buy jewelry to a jewelry shop, and he goes in there and he says listen, I want to buy her a ring, an engagement ring. And the jeweler comes back and he's like, okay, and he shows her like a 1 carat. He goes, no, I want something special for my girl here. Comes back with like a 3 carat. He's like, that's not big enough. And she's just like, oh my God. Comes back with like a 11 carat diamond. And she tries it on. He says that's the one. How much is it? Tells him how much it is. And it's 45,000 or 80,000, whatever it is. I don't know how much diamonds cost, but it's 80,000. He says, listen, you need to get her size. Okay, we'll size it. We'll this. He says, listen, I'm going to write you a check right now. We're going to come back on Monday and get the ring once you've got it sized and the check goes through. I know it's Saturday, so, and or Friday, whatever.
It's Monday a holiday. That helps too sometimes.
And he gives her the check and he leaves with the girl. She's thrilled. And then on Monday, the jeweler calls the old man and says, hey, listen, man, your check bounced like nothing's ever bounced before. He's like, there's no money in that account. He goes, yeah, I know, but let me tell you about this weekend I just had. Sorry.
Good for it.
Gary.
Yeah, no. That's genius, though. Do you have to return it then after? That's funny. So what you were saying as well, though. So after she's Googling, how treatment's getting better, blood work getting better. So after she kind of leaves in December, again, this is like our relationship is like obviously not great at this point.
Right.
So I hired a private investigator to look into Lauren. I hired a private investigator to look into the building dispute with the new landlord, because I was still like, that wasn't resolved, but I was like, I need to get to the bottom of all this stuff. So essentially, she's kind of has her back against the wall because I have now figured out like the cancer situation. I figured out the Jeff situation at this point. I have figured out the Lauren situation. So like I figured out all these things. And so I feel like kind of maybe similar with that story you mentioned earlier where like, yeah, her back's against the wall. Like, she didn't, fly a plane and miscalculate, but I feel like this was like her evac moment of like, all right, I gotta get a new life. Like everyone here knows that I'm a fraud essentially. Right. So I just get a new family. And like, so she just took off essentially. So when she took off,
she took off to be with Gary?
No, so this show, yeah, I know.
Poor Gary.
Gary was still in the picture because on Valentine's Day he sent her flowers too. So like Gary is not out of the picture yet. So there might be hope for Gary because it'll be another like few years before Gary fully cuts bait on this.
Right.
So he's still hanging around, if you will. But basically, she met some other guy, started seeing. But to what you were mentioning before, this whole, and going back to social media, like how do you explain why you left this person? Mm-hmm. Like, did he fake cancer? Well, yeah, he's abusive. I had to get away from him.
All right.
So
does she take all the kids?
No. So all the kids are with me. Yeah. Yeah.
No.
No.
She left
no. Yeah. The
are
kids,
you in the new house?
So we're still in that new house.
Okay.
And
at least you're not with
we're out of grandma's. So yeah, we moved in there in August, so we were there for a few months.
And did you like, hey, like what's up with all these things? What's kind of the catalyst for her leaving?
So there's a lot. So we will go back a little bit. So basically, over the summer when we were at the grandma's, like the cancer situation. So I finally called because she went to one of these chemo treatments, and then when she got out of it one day, she was like, I need to have a surgery, like a spinal surgery. And so I'm like, okay, like what now, But she didn't want me to go with her. This is, 21-ish. So like I could have went to like Tampa General with her.
Right.
But she's like, no, you're going to go play golf. I'm like, I don't really want to play golf. Like if you're having a surgery, I need to be here. But it was just really weird behavior. The whole situation was weird. So we went.
You're the opposite of me. To me, I'm like, what?
I was about to say, what'd you shoot?
Yeah.
To me,
I actually playing pretty good that day.
It always kills me when people are like, well, my wife's having surgery, I need to be there. I'm like, what, to assist?
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna sit in the visitation room. You might as well come to work.
Yeah.
Well, go play golf. Like, she's gonna be out of commission for 8 hours.
Essentially, that may be her theory. But yeah, so when we got to Tampa General, she was just like, I'm gonna park. I'll walk you in, make sure you get there. She was like, no, you're not stepping a foot out of this car. Like basically angry. Like, and I'm like, you're having a surgery. Like, I'm not trying to.
She's irritated. I got to fake this whole thing for you.
Essentially,
catching on.
It's kind of like, I don't know if you watch Seinfeld, like when George went to the Hamptons for the fake Hampton house, and he's like, fine, we have to go up here. It reminded me of that.
Like driving to
he's like, we want to go. Yeah, we'd love to go to your house in the Hamptons. Let's go. Well, it's right around the corner here. It's your last year chance. So yeah, it's like I'm basically keep pushing her to essentially, have to fake and forge more things. Like, I guess I really do got to do this. So she gets out of the procedure. It's just weird. She acted more like drunk and loopy, and she's like, I'm like, I'll come get you. She's like, no, I'll Uber to the golf course. Like,
might
whatever.
Have been drunk and loopy. She might have spent the last 6 hours in the bar.
I think, yeah. Well, that's what I felt. I was just like, okay. And this is when I called, because I finally had a place that I could call, Tampa General. That's where she's supposed to have the surgery. The other place, that she's getting like the treatments. I basically call them and I'm like, my wife at the time, she what medication she's had a surgery. Here's her date of birth. Here's her first, last name. And they're like, yeah, we don't have a record of her. I was like, okay, well, let me try like this other last name. Because sometimes she go by her maiden name. And then I was like, let me go by her mom's maiden name. Because she got too many names. They're like, yeah, we have no record of any of this person here. I'm like, huh.
What about the doctor?
Nothing. I was like,
Doctor.
Yeah.
Dr. Rosenthal, please. We don't have a Rosenthal.
Yeah, nothing. Tampa General saying, I'm like, okay, maybe whoever.
Well, who does this surgery? We don't do that surgery.
Yeah, literally.
You go to Moffitt for that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's when I really was just like, okay. And then kind of the whole, what we're talking about earlier, where like you ask a pathological liar.
Yeah. They just spin it or get it.
I've gotten to a place where I don't even tell her about. So at this point, so like basically I am finding out about the cancer at this point, basically in August when we're in the house. This is kind of when I'm figuring out, the Lauren situation, have the private investigator. The Jeff thing I figured out because of the whole phone number where I typed it in. All this stuff happened pretty much from August to October of 2021. Because again, I cut her off in March and I'm really just like, I got to figure my life out. So I'm like turning over every stone. So I'm figuring out the cancer situation. I figured out the Jeff situation, figured out the Lauren situation. And so do I tell her about all this? I don't. I actually hold on to this for basically until December because I'm just.
You kind of trying to figure out an exit strategy?
Yes. So when I'm in this house, I'm trying to figure out an exit strategy to this whole situation because, unfortunately, divorcing men it's not kind.
Yeah.
So, and I have the girls and I'm seeing just who this person is. And I'm like, do I want young girls growing up around this? So like everything at this mode is like protection of what I have left, protection of them, trying to figure out truly like an escape plan. I got to save money. I got to, get everything in order and start documenting this properly to show like this is, who this person is in a sense. So
just listen.
No.
Just between you and me. Just you and me. Yeah. Was there ever a moment lying in bed at night and you thought some chloroform and a large suitcase and I could come out of this looking pretty sweet?
Yeah. No, there was many nights though where she even was mad because of how I did it, but there'd be many nights where I'd lay in bed and she's laying there and I'm just like, you are probably the worst person I could have ever met. And she gets so mad, but I'm like, I'm lying in bed and I'm just like, this is all, all roads are leaving back to you, like
my life was going pretty good before I met you.
Yeah. So there was many nights of, where I'm just basically saying how, like, you are just the worst. Like, I don't, whoever ends up with you after this all, like, I don't wish this on anyone's life, essentially. Like, so yeah, at this point, she kind of knows, like, I know what she's up to. I basically not happy, ruined my everything in a lot of sense. So yeah, there's a lot of anger of like, just who are you? And like, why are you like, what was the point of all this,
Right.
So we lead up to Christmas, and Christmas, I think she was hanging on to Christmas because we really, things were not well at that point. But after Christmas is when she called the police on me for the first time ever. And it was because she stayed out with the new boyfriend like the night before. And I was questioning her, heaven forbid. And so in the police report, it stated she never said there was any abuse, no crime. Like basically she did this to, I think, start the pattern of her escape story that we'll hear on social media. This is her first time calling the police saying that, it never said abuse in there. She claims that in social media world that's why she called them at that time and while she filed this, a restraining order against me. But when you look at all the situations, she never mentioned abuse ever in those times.
Not that it's beneath her. At least she drew the line there.
And you're right, because that worried me a lot because it was just like all she has to just say, and they'll take you, and they'll ask questions later type of deal.
Right.
I think she did know like that was probably too far for her to maybe go on that. So moving forward, now again she's trying to predict that narrative or have that narrative. So that's when the fake abuse apps. So she's doing searches in January and February for fake abuse apps to create abuse photos. So essentially, she'll have these photos and they'll have bruises on them, and she's taking the pictures. I don't know how it works, to be honest, but
It's just like a filter. Like a filter.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, and you just add a bruise.
yeah.
Yeah.
So now she knows that I have,
horrible.
because when the police came that first time, I kind of gave my hand because the police were a little bit, they're never on the guy's side. I'll say that. So I basically was like, well, I have a private investigator. She's been, pretending to be an attorney. Oh, and this is when she actually bought the domain name. So when we moved in right into the new house in August, that's when she switched from Lauren to a Hunter Law Firm, LLC, and she bought that domain name for the attorney's office. And so everybody now in that email had attorney, law office stuff, if you will. So now it's like a legit operation. Wasn't for the Gmail account. So basically, I'm like, I saw that you paid for the domain name for this whole law firm that you're pretending to be. The Lauren situation, the cancer, the Jeff situation. I go, I have all this stuff, and I've been building this up for, basically I'm telling her this verbally, kind of in front of the police officer on purpose in a lot of ways. And when I did that, I took off essentially. And then that's when, her mind, it's like, well, it doesn't look so good. So like, I got to really play up this abuse thing. And that's, again, when those searches started. No searches ever before that. The searches started in January of 22 and February 22. And she, saved them for a rainy day or social media in a few years. So that's kind of where her narrative had started to begin as far as, why would you leave, how do you leave your husband? How do you leave your kids? Mm-hmm. Well, there has to be a reason for that. It's not like, oh, he caught me doing all this fraud.
Right.
It's no, like what's more believable? Like, yeah. So that was her angle and her narrative that she was starting to really build, that I won't say it paid off, because she's been telling it for like 2-3 years at that point when everything went viral. And for me, I've heard about it, but I've never seen the photos. I've heard about it from different people. So when it all came to like a head, it's like, she's been telling this story for years now.
You're going to parties, people are giving you dirty looks.
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with Todd?
Yeah.
What's your problem? You, me what?
Mm-hmm. Literally. And I would message people that were like around her, and I would kind of say, hey, just so you know, this is who she is. And then people would respond back to me. Obviously, she's already poisoned that ahead of time. They're just like, well, you've abused her. Like, go away. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, so.
Listen, my buddy Boziak had a girlfriend that contacted every single girl on his Instagram and told them that she had caught him like in bed with like a middle schooler or something, and that they broke up, and he's disgusting, and he's this, he's that. I mean, I knew I had a girlfriend one time where her mother, when she broke up with the boyfriend, told the two daughters that she'd caught him in bed with another man, and then 2 weeks later they're back together.
Oh my gosh!
And she's like, what about him and Bob? Like, what is that? Oh, it's I was a misunderstanding on my part. You said,
yeah,
it didn't sound like a misunderstanding from what you described.
Yeah.
People are psycho.
It's crazy, and they have no problem doing all that stuff.
Yeah,
creating all the drama and the chaos, and then it's just like, whatever.
To look, we'll see. It's no big. Like I said, they don't get embarrassed. They don't feel embarrassment.
Right. Yeah. No. Exactly. So. Yeah, I mean, and then, obviously I filed for divorce in February of 22, and she had already put out one false restraining order on me in January, and then, I mean, she's done like 5 on me. All were dismissed, and
what is she alleging?
So the first one is that I called her too many times, and I mean, they're all like,
where's my money?
Yeah. So they were all nothing to do with abuse in this in any scenario, but obviously like there was kids at the she wrote it up in a way that it would be granted for the temporary. She never showed up to half of them. So we're still in that house that we moved into that has Gary and her on the lease.
Yeah,
And
the single mother house.
single mother house, yeah. And I realized that too because she was always like, "Well, you're not on the lease. You got to get out of here." And I was like, "Oh, that was your plan all along. When we moved in here, you made sure I was on the lease." But fortunately, it doesn't work like that. So I was like, "I'm not leaving until I have to." And so eventually, that $800,000 that she got from Gary, she blew that in 6 months. By February of 22, she was out of money. So she had a.
I mean, she's driving a nice car. Is she?
So she bought a Range Rover in September. She had to sell that to get some money back to even push her to for a few more months. But yeah, she would go to Louis Vuitton and spend $50,000. She was traveling. I mean, the just blow. I mean, in that amount of money, I mean, 100,000 a month essentially just being blown.
Is she spending money on the kids? I mean, they have everything.
No.
No.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, it's not like they're, they have private school paid for like they could have or anything like that. But, they got clothes and some toys and stuff like that. But yeah, it's not like, hey, she didn't even prepay the rent. She could have prepaid the whole rent for the year.
Right.
But we started getting eviction notices around April. And I had already seen the movie. And that's why I was like, people, as I'm telling the story now, people are like, oh, why haven't you paid for it or accepted? And it's like, this is the Titanic. Like, this is going down. Like, I'm not adding any more funds to this.
Yeah.
Like, I am going to be getting my own place with my own sitter.
The lease is in her name.
Thankfully.
Let her. She's getting evicted, actually.
Yeah. So, like, I've seen this movie. I saw this. I figured this is how this was going to end the moment I stepped foot in this house. So, I'm basically buying time. And eventually in May, that's when, officially I get my own place and she goes to Cora. I don't know if you're familiar with Cora apartment complex, but Cora is this like downtown high rise in Channelside. Well,
okay,
yeah, it's like
there's a ton of really nice places down in Channelside.
Yeah, it's like near Heron and all that. But basically, she said on her application that she made $300,000 a year. And I guess they don't double check those things. Looks good to me. So she got in there. So she moved into this apartment complex, did not ever give them a single dollar ever. But she lived there from May, June, July. She was finally evicted in August. So only 4 months, but she was able to truly finagle that and get in there for 4 months and not give them a dollar after we kind of went to our other ways. And meanwhile, I filed for divorce, and our divorce took about a year. So we got officially divorced in May of 2023. So throughout 22, she's kind of just running around. She doesn't see the girls. She's not really seeing her other kids. Just
where are the other kids? Like, where are all 4 kids with you?
So up until January of 21 or 22. January 22, when I filed, basically, that's when the kids were with me, and then she hired a sitter to watch the kids during the day, so she didn't have to be there. But her older kids were with the dad or the sitter, so she wasn't really watching the daughters.
The SA dad that went to jail,
not that one, but the daughter's dad. So the oldest daughter's dad. This is her second oldest kid.
Have you ever talked to that guy?
I did actually.
Does he say, I don't know where this is coming from?
Yeah, I mean, kind of.
I had a great experience.
Yeah, kind of. It was kind of weird actually. When I did speak with him, the one and only time on the phone, I'm like, hey, she doesn't have a car anymore. She just had to sell her the Range Rover back because she has no money. I'm like, that she is basically has no car. Her license was suspended because she got a lot of parking ticket. Basically, I'm giving him like, what I think is like very solid advice because of what I'm seeing. And his response essentially was like, now I won't say he didn't doubt, like he doubted it, but he basically, essentially didn't believe me. He's just like, well, I see her have a car. She's picking up, his daughter. Mm-hmm. I'm like, well, you do know she's living like in a 1-bedroom with like some random dude. And he's like, no, I don't think so. She sends me pictures that I'm at, Aaron's house. And I'm like, oh man, you are deeper than I imagined. Because those photos, like, because I saw that early on, which is what I used to protect my daughters. I'd be like, hey, where's your other kids? She would send pictures to me even of her older kids, pretend like she was with them, but she was actually never with them. They would be with like a sitter. She would ask the sitter to take a picture of the kid, send it to her, and then she would send it to the dad and be like, oh, yep, she's right here. Meanwhile, it took two people to get that photo. So,
Right.
so he's none the wiser and he feels good about it. But at the end of the day, yeah, she's going home to this boyfriend's house at a 1-bedroom.
And he's watching the two kids.
Yeah. And the sitter is watching either the older kids, because I guess I should say that. So on the days that she's supposed to have them, the sitter takes them.
Right.
And on the days that he's supposed to have them, obviously he does
Right.
take them. So they're
And
not
you
with
had
her.
the two young.
And I have the two youngest. Yeah. Full time.
And so when you get divorced, is that how that works out? The judge awards you.
So when we were, because that's what has been going on for like the last year, because that when she left, it was basically beginning, you can say end of 21, 22. So by the time that we got to May of 23, because I had them full time and she had really no time with them, it helped a lot to get full custody, because the judge had already understood that her housing isn't stable. Mind you, she lived at the boyfriend's and then the Cora house.
Mm-hmm.
And then she had another boyfriend. And then, so she had like 6.
Yeah.
She
And
had
she's got multiple evictions on her.
multiple evictions. So essentially that weighed a lot, because I could show the judge that essentially I've had them full time and she's had little to no time with them. So that was, how it was able to be written up. But the real factor of all of it, I guess, too, is it was written up for me to have 100% full day and night, holidays, weekends. But because of all these crimes that we've been talking about, when you're married, you go to the police. I remember going to the police with like a binder. I'm like, here's all the things that have, these crimes that have been committed against me. And I try and leave out the person until like the very end. Like, these are all crimes. This is what this person did. And then it's like, well, who is this to you? It's like, my wife or soon to be, depending on the time.
Right.
Oh, that's going to be civil. Here's your binder.
Yeah.
Have a good day. So when you're married, it just really, that's such a different dynamic of, did a crime commit? Are you married?
Right.
So they really wash their hands to it. So I put all that stuff in our divorce, like you owing me for XYZ, all this stuff. So I was able to get it done in divorce court, so to speak. It wasn't criminal court, but I was able to get a lot of her omission. I actually forgot about the coffee shop. There's just so much.
Yeah, what's the coffee shop? Yeah, and doesn't she get arrested for like check fraud or something?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's in 23.
Okay.
So yeah, forgot about the coffee shop is actually a big one. Honestly, it's just so much. I usually have like an outline because it's truly like, and it's not just like you said, it'd be so much simpler. Like, this happened, detective solved it, put it away, new one. No,
Right.
this is going, and then you're onto this. It's the next. I mean, it just
She's juggling multiple little scams.
yes. So the coffee shop, she always wanted to open a coffee shop, and when we moved into the single women house, Gary's money involved and all that, she's like, and again, I cut her off in March. I'm trying to get out of this situation. I'm not trying to go deeper.
Right.
So when she mentioned coffee shop she wants to open, I'm like,
Good
don't,
luck.
yeah, like, don't count me in. You have cancer supposedly. We have 4 kids. Our lives are, we're living with your grandma 3 months ago. Like, yeah, let's start a coffee shop. Like, no, like, that's not, we don't have any time for this. And she had like a part-time job supposedly at a special needs school during this, when we moved in there. But that was purely a cover to be able to
Get out of the house.
Or they had events, they would do events at Lightning games and football games. So that was a cover to
drag these special needs kids to the Lightning on Saturday night.
Yeah.
They're going out at halftime.
Yeah, like fun. Yeah, they're like, oh, we're fundraising. So like, yeah, you realize like a lot of the things that she lies about as far as having a job, they have the most flexibility that you could ever want. It's like, I could be at home sometimes, I could be at the office sometimes. We might have like a field trip or volunteer events at a bar. Like, yeah, it's like, okay. So they always had this like, flexibility to them that you could never keep her in a spot.
Right.
So she wanted to open this coffee shop, and I'm like, I want out. I'm done. We got too much going on. Want nothing to do with it. One of her other best friends at the time, her name is Lindsay, and she's a realtor. And so she's been driving around for, pretty much from like August, September to like find a place. And apparently they found a spot in like downtown Clearwater to open this like coffee wine bar, Lulu's. We joke now, we call it the Lulu's. Right. But essentially, I'm out of loop because I don't want anything to do with it. But so she tells me she signs the lease, and then 2 weeks later, she's like, I had to change of heart, essentially. I don't want to do it anymore. Which, yeah, as you know.
They pulled her credit.
Yeah. Well, they said, you need to have your husband sign on it. And she's like, most people that'd be like, yeah, that's gonna be a deal breaker, whatever, because she knows not, like, there'd be no chance. So what she does instead is she creates an email very close to my email, and it's off by a number. And she has her realtor friend send her the contract there to my email, but it's not mine, to the one that she created. So she signs and forges my name on this coffee shop to get the approval for the coffee shop. So I was on the hook for this coffee shop. I didn't know it for many months, but she basically did that around October of 21. So she is.
Did they open the coffee shop?
Coffee shop never served a cup of coffee.
Okay.
Had plans made. I think I kind of joke about it. I want to find the footage so bad. She got like a hard hat from like Home Depot and a hammer and like hammered a wall. And then if I would drive by there like a couple times, maybe like once a month or whatever, and like that same hole in the wall never like this was just a facade of. And this is the part with Gary is like, did Gary think he was investing in a coffee shop? Is this like, is this just another her thing of like, well, I'm opening a coffee shop and I'm going to do all the stuff that makes it look like it. But you go by, there's not a table in there. There's not a machine. Like there's nothing that says it's a coffee shop.
Did you ever talk to Gary?
So I actually never talked to Gary. He would never talk to me because
been poisoned.
Yeah.
By her.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Like anything I'm the liar in this scenario.
Yeah.
So Gary don't want to do anything with me. If I try and reach him on like a burner number or anything like that, like he already had my other number blocked when I had tried to reach out. So like, yeah, no communication. So essentially this coffee shop, well, she doesn't obviously pay rent on that either. So all of a sudden they sue her. Well, I find out about it because I got sued with it. I thankfully, going back to the divorce situation, I had that in our agreement because I had discovered that I was forged. So I sent them the divorce agreement that said she forged my name, and they thankfully took me off of it. But she basically wanted this coffee shop so bad that she was willing to create a fake email and a fake number to communicate with like the owners of the building, because they're like, when this all started happening, they're like, well, we talked to you. You told me this and that. And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to see those messages. Like you were talking to her, if you haven't figured that out. So it's like she's emailing back and forth with them. She's texting with them as me, signs my name on the coffee shop, and just none the wiser. So yeah, just one thing after the next.
What? So there was that. When did she get arrested? So you got in 2023.
Yeah.
And the coffee shop was when? 22?
So the lawsuit was in 22, but she opened it and signed it October of 21.
Okay.
And then the lawsuit came in like 22, maybe early 23, around that time. And we had already signed the stuff so I could get off of it.
Right.
So, yeah. So actually it was January, maybe February of 23. She had a bank account and she wrote a check to another bank to open up an account. And, big checks like that, I'm not too familiar with that type of fraud, but from what I understand, it's actually called check kiting.
Check kiting, yeah.
And so I believe she knew the manager at the second bank, and I think they were doing her a solid because of the guy that she was dating at the time. The guy managing the bank knew her boyfriend, and her boyfriend, I would say, was had money. So she wrote this check, and the guy cashed it for her sooner than it should have. Well, because it worked, and then an hour later, maybe the next day, once it cleared, she cleared all of it out. Like it was like $10,000. Well, she goes back the next within a short period of time, what was it take maybe 5 days to clear? So she went back probably in 3 days before it fully cleared and gave another check for 10,000. So they already cleared the first one, and then they cleared the second one and then they all came back
Right.
bad. And so she had check kiting, I guess.
20,000 in bad checks.
Yeah, I think it ended up being. I think they caught the second one, but and it might have been like 12. I think they gave her a partial of the second one, maybe not the full one, but yeah, it ended up being where she took that money and removed it like immediately.
And so what she go back to the bank and they called the police when she grabbed in the bank, or?
Yeah. So according to the police report, because I wasn't with her at this time, but what I understand is that they did call the police and they did a whole investigation. So she wasn't even probably, from what I understand, she wasn't really aware of like this whole thing going on, because this happened in like January, February, and she didn't get arrested until I think September or October of that same year,
Okay.
23.
So
they had the whole investigation going on, put out like a warrant for her arrest, and try to go through all that stuff. And then when she got arrested, she basically was saying that it was an account of mine. Like, she's still throwing me under the bus. Like, obviously I can't catch a break. So she said it was a joint account that we had. And once we left, I closed it and she had already wrote the check, which
doesn't make sense and doesn't match the records.
Exactly. It sounds good for the internet and like, oh yeah, that could happen. But when you really think about it, yeah.
But the people at the bank know better.
People at the bank, whole investigation, the checks have her name on it. Like, I was never interviewed, obviously, either. So yeah, when you get down to like the brass tacks of it, like you're right. It's like there's just no way that was ever have anything to do with me. But that's what she told everybody, because she had also told all the friend group that she was with at the time, how bad I am. So I think she just knew anything bad that happens to me, blame it on the ex. Like, he's
Right.
always, he's just still trying to screw me over. So yeah, so she got arrested, and then she recently had a hearing, I think, beginning of this year or maybe the end of last year. Actually, I think it was in February this year. I think she paid it, and I don't know, got a slap on the wrist.
Right. It's a financial crime. It's minor at this point.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of money anyway. You probably got probation or something at most.
Yeah, exactly. So so that check kiting situation with the Chase Bank was the original bank, and then Sea Coast, I think, was the one that she was trying to open up. And I think how she really pulled it off, again, was she knew the manager there.
Right.
And I think he did something he probably shouldn't have done. And obviously, yeah, you can kind of screw over people. It's hard to maybe even battle them, but you do it to a business like a bank, they can so that's what I think that was her mistake on that. So leading up to all this, so we're getting to say 23. So 24 is kind of on the heels of, the cupcake video. Basically, she has ran from our lives, essentially. I'm, raising our daughters, and throughout the divorce, this is when I had my page. I didn't really post a lot of stuff, but I'm like, I know that you have done, I have this binder full of all these things.
Right.
And on your social media, you're acting like you're this single mother and like, whatever, just your persona, you're a con artist, and like you are now trying to, I won't say like scam more people at the time, but financially, I think to me, it's just the scam of like pretending of who you're not, who you are in a sense. And so, actually, she scammed another guy for, did you see that video?
What's
in the police, where he's in the police station? I forgot.
Oh,
about that.
yeah.
I forgot. There's a, sorry, I messed that timeline up badly, but
yeah, that's fine. Continue.
So right after the divorce, and this is again, right after our divorce was finalized in May of 23, again, they told me, wait, go through the legal channels and do all that stuff. Well, we were now officially divorced. So I walk up to the department. I said, here's all the stuff that has been happening, that has happened. And so you say that, they're like, well, that's, civil. Right. And I go, yep, it was all handled civilly, but you should look into this, or at least be aware of this. Well, she met the next guy. We'll call him just RP. I don't know, for privacy.
Okay.
She met him at a bar that same month, end of May, April, May time. and dying. Like she's like, I'm dying of cancer, and I'm have 6 months to live, and she was in a coma. I put her in a coma. Her ex put her in a coma. So like again, this is like all these things that like just hit on, I don't know, buttons or sensitivities.
Yeah.
Like, this guy is like, wow, I gotta, maybe help her.
Yeah, this poor thing. And she happens to be attractive.
Yeah.
Which is a huge plus.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, if she was 60 pounds overweight and unattractive, I'd be like, that's
good luck to you.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah, it sounds like a problem.
Tough one. Yeah.
You're gonna get through this.
Yeah. Not a boy, not a girl. So he got hooked in. First thing was $1,000 for her daughter's party that she wanted to do. Well, I don't know all the details other than what I've heard on the reports, but how it sounds, it's kind of like I blinked and then I'm $500,000-$600,000 deep. So within 2 years, it's $800,000 for one guy, $500,000 to $600,000 for another guy, plus other cash and credit cards. So I mean, on the short end of it, I mean, you might be looking at like $1.5 million, but
Right.
I think it's probably closer to like 3 to 4 potentially.
Yeah, and on this most recent guy you're talking about, like his son, I guess, had kind of found out. I think this is a scam. I think it's a fraud. And there's body cam footage of this guy going into like the police station saying like, "Hey, like I think I've been scammed by whatever." So yeah, there's from the videos that we've watched, there's a bunch of all these stories. There's like proof of it online of the screenshots or the body cam footage, all this type of stuff.
So exactly. And so, they went to the police and said, took all this money from me and, we look into it. And so I don't know if that's still being investigated or not on that end, but they said they did get like the FBI involved on it, but they were.
Well, you would think if they got the FBI involved in that they would tie it into yours. They would say, hey,
they probably will.
Yeah. Like, hey, this is a serial, scam artist or whatever you want to call it, a serial fraudster, like, and there's multiple men involved and you're one of them.
Yes.
And you've got a ton of documentation too. I don't know if everybody else does, but.
Well, and that's what I've started to hear that the whole ex, scorned ex, the whole ex-husband's theme is, how it's played out. But I have heard that when they have talked with them, they're like, you should probably treat him as a victim,
right?
And not like this ex because of all this stuff, So yeah, so all of basically 23, from May of 23 all the way through basically January, so like a whole nother almost year, she's now living off of another $500,000. Sure enough, by January, it's run dry again. So she spends it faster than she can get it. Trips, concerts, lavish outfits, everything like that. And then, like you said, where it came October, and the son got aware of it, and the son started like going through the bank accounts because the dad's older,
right?
And it's like, this is gone, like this is catastrophic. It's like, why are you doing all this? Well, she was sick and needed, it's just like that story. So again, going back to like the whole cancer bigger picture, at that time when the GoFundMe and our situation, I mean, it was never like that. So the cancer monetary scheme, I think she realized it was more profitable, more one-on-one with somebody who doesn't know, and I can really.
It's taking forever to kill her, though. I mean, it's really she's battling the hell out of this.
She's another.
She's a fighter. You gotta admit that. Like, let's give her that.
Yes.
I don't know anybody that's going stage 4 cancer, fucking like
2 years,
years into it.
It's looking better and better. Yeah, that's the thing, is kind of joking on that, because it's like, well, you're gonna die in 6 months. Well, I just need like 200 more K. Yeah. Well, you're dying in 6 months. Like, I mean, is that gonna make a difference? Like, so they just keep, and this is the part where who knows if that will ever come out, the whole inner workings of how she phrased things and how she said things. But it's a combination of what she did with Gary, abusive relationship, dying of cancer, trying to escape it, and potentially, I don't know relationship wise, but I'm sure there that once I get cured of everything and divorced, I'm sure we can all be, we could be together.
Yeah, yeah,
Like that, just always that rainbow at
He's
the end
still,
of the
he's
road.
still waiting. Poor Gary.
Yeah. So so they end up, I won't say homeless, but they lost a lot of money. But how I figured everything out is pretty crazy, I guess. Well, not that I basically was able to get into the emails.
Right.
I got into the emails of the bank account. So like when she would, we'd be texting or whatever, it's like, what are you doing? I'm here, there. And then I see like the transaction. I'm like, well, you're in St. Augustine and you just bought a coffee.
Right.
So I basically now, when this was all developing to get away, I'm seeing all the behind the scenes. I'm seeing all the emails. I'm seeing all her bank statements. So like, I'm basically like, what are you doing? What's up? Oh, you didn't, I didn't actually tell her this, but in my head, when she tells me the lie, like I'm at a movie, no, you're in Orlando. You just made a purchase at Universal Studios.
Right.
It's just like, I'm literally now seeing all the stuff she's doing and just, tracking it. So it makes it a little there.
I'm visiting my mother in Ocala, and you're like, no, you're in Miami, at a fucking concert.
Yeah, there was.
She did do that.
There was one thing about a concert. Like she was posting on social media, and then these girls that were doing those podcasts, they're like, and then that night she was in Miami at Encore or something.
Yeah. In our scenario, it was around January 21 when she left. She told me her friend OD'd back home in Indiana, and she had to go be there for like the funeral and all this stuff. Well, I found receipts for her in St. Augustine with the new boyfriend, if you will. So so she's telling me people are dying up here, and she's out. She's always
this 2-hour video that we listened to with these girls. They were so detailed, so researched, and even they were saying like there's literally so much more that we can't even get into. And you can tell they have spent. I asked Matt, told Matt before we started this. I'm like, I wonder how many hours they did. Probably tens of hours of research. They did and they're still just like, there's still so much.
Because there's so many different and to me, the one that I started it all was my business with the whole eviction thing.
Yeah.
I still think there was foul play with the nursing home and the new landlord taking over and all that. Like that to me was like kind of the original, thing in my mind. Because I have a feeling that lady who was just a tenant in the building like had something to do with it.
But with that, but not sure that doesn't tie in.
Not tie in mine, because
that's pretty bizarre.
Yeah, and so I mean, if it came out later that there was, I would just be like par for the course. Like I would not, I would totally believe it, but I just it's just I like to say that now she had nothing to do with that. With her, I don't put anything past her though.
So where the question is, where were you when she did? When that video came out,
the cupcake.
Yeah. You should.
And can I'll play it. Yeah, and can you kind of explain it for someone who hasn't?
Yeah,
because everything at this point.
Do you want the lead up to it?
Yeah. I was gonna say at this point, isn't she kind of not out of your life, but it's moving in that direction.
Yeah, so that's what's interesting about it. So real quick on that. So January of 24. She shows up to my job, bawling, crying. I haven't seen her in probably 6 months, and she is telling me, I won't say everything I want to hear, but again, for me, it's just about the girls and the kids. Mm-hmm. But she shows up to my office and parking lot crying, begging. I mean, she's always lied about stuff, but I'm just like, I don't know, I'm not doing this again.
Yeah.
Well, she showed for like 2 weeks. So we started to have better communication for the first time in probably 2 to 3 years. So we were actually, before this cupcake video, I don't know if you even have heard online, but people are like, oh, I was sleeping on our couch for like 6 months.
If you sleep hot at night, you know how disruptive that can be. Whether you're having trouble falling asleep, you're waking up sweating in the middle of the night, or all of the above. That's where Ghost Bed can help. As the makers of the coolest beds in the world, Ghost Bed is your go-to for cooling mattresses, cooling pillows, and cooling bedding. From their signature Ghost Ice fabric to patented technology that adjusts to your body's temperature, every Ghost Bed mattress is designed with cooling in mind. So whether you want a plusher mattress that cushions your shoulders and hips, or a firm option with exceptional support, your Ghost Bed will keep you cool and comfortable all night long. When you purchase a Ghost Bed mattress, your comfort is guaranteed. You can try out your mattress for 101 nights, risk-free, to make sure it's the right fit for you. Plus, they offer free shipping, and most items are shipped within 24 hours. If you're not sure which Ghost Bed is right for you,
check out their mattress quiz. You'll answer a few questions and get a personalized recommendation. Even better, our listeners can get 50% off site-wide for a limited time. Just visit ghostbed.com/Cox and use the code COX at checkout. Again, that's ghostbed.com/Cox with the code COX at the checkout to save a whopping 50% off site-wide.
Like I kind of was like on and off for the girls. So basically, at that point I never trusted her alone with them. So basically, from January to May, when her birthday was, we were actually, for the only time I would say she was consistent. We probably would go there once or twice during the week, and then one night on the weekend, so she could spend time with them. And again, I just never trusted her.
No. But it's not a relationship. You're just staying on the couch.
Staying on the couch. Exactly. And there'd be even times where I'm on the couch and she's like, can you do a bath or whatever? I'm just like, this is your time. I go, you treat me like I don't exist here.
Right.
Like I'm sitting here. I'm just making sure that they, you don't leave them, because I know that you've done that in the past where
or take off with them for all
or take
you know.
off. Like, you have no rights at this point. So like, I think even though I'm here, don't think of me as here as like, you were doing all the stuff,
Yeah.
obviously within reason I help her. But at the same time, it's like, this is quote unquote your time. I'm just supervising. So that was all the lead up. And then the Friday before her birthday was on a Sunday. That Friday, she's like, I'm going out with my friends. And again, we didn't get into all the stuff she did over the last couple of years, but this girl has gone out with her friends 360 nights a year, out of the 365. So it's like, so when it all kind of broke, it's like, well, how would you not let her go out with her friends? Like, how horrible are you? Well, it's like, this isn't that scenario. Everyone does a night off and go do all this stuff. But when you have been gone for this amount of time, I told her that Friday night, I said, if you're going to go out with your friends and not spend the time with them, this isn't working for them. We've been doing this for 3-4 months now. It's not working for me. It's definitely not working for them. So if you leave to go out with your friends, sign, handshake, like you have a good game, like we're moving on, And so she went out with her friends, and all weekend she was upset. And I should mention the Thursday before she went out, she got an eviction notice. Shocking, a 3-day eviction. And she told me that they did it that way because Monday was a holiday, Memorial Day, and then Thursday, they don't want to evict you on the weekend, so it like bought her like 2 extra days. So I think it was a culmination of the eviction, of being evicted out of that place, me saying, oh, we're done, we're going back to not having communication about them, and then just, feeling sad in a sense. So she all of a sudden on Sunday was home and probably realizing like, I'm getting evicted out of this place, spent all the money that I have had, like the jig is about to be up, I don't know what to do. And then, she, presses play. I don't know if the tears came first or the play button, but it was like start crying and then record, or you recording and then it starts crying, but
starts making cupcakes.
Yeah. I will say probably no cupcakes were made that night.
Yeah. poor me. The poor me video. Can you find the video? Are you going to play the video?
I just searched it. Elizabeth Cupcake Mom.
And that was our wedding song, actually.
So yeah. So if there's a song, so if there's a song playing, I won't be able to do it. But it's a crying girl literally unboxing cupcakes, and it says, being a single mom is making your own birthday cake on your birthday so that your babies can feel happy they are singing to you. And she's just crying, making cupcakes.
Do they really? She's got a song playing.
It's the 1,000 years. And it was our wedding song, actually. So
I love you for 1,000.
Yeah. Soft. It's very so that was our wedding song on top of it, which I thought was a little like a jab. So it's like,
and at this current time, like in current day, like today, the TikTok, as you know, like social medias are not up right now.
Hers are on private now.
Okay.
Her Instagram might be open.
Because this is just from some random person who reposted this. But at the time that this video was posted, they went viral.
Yeah.
Like viral.
So it went viral. Yeah. Obviously, who knows why all things go viral, but it was, the connection of like single moms being like, this poor lady, she whatever the husband, people were implying
that
things
bastard,
about
that
all these things,
bastard
right?
husband of hers.
All these things. You're right. It's like all these things. And like, and then some people were just like, kind of like, yeah, do you cry? And then like, oh, let me record this. Like, it's like, who cries on camera? So in reality, I actually stayed back for about 5 days. So it did take
How did you find that? I mean, how did you even find out? Somebody sent it to you?
So she posted it, and I kind of saw the video, and I was just like, I'm like, why? Like, what are you doing? Essentially, I'm just like, this is what I hate about social media. It's like just so cringy to begin with, and then it went. I got like sent like a bunch of my friends throughout the week, sending me the video and all this stuff, and then there's a combination of people that are. I mean, she was actually getting destroyed online. People were just like calling her like all these things and just kind of making fun of her. So I was kind of like, all right, but the thing that kind of changed for me was she created a fake domestic violence charity. And so it never ends. Never ends. So 2 months prior, I started seeing she had a website made. She was starting to do a few videos, and after this all blew up on Thursday, and maybe it was Wednesday, Thursday, the pay button or donation button became available. And I know all that I know. And I go, oh my gosh. And so that was I actually wasn't even going to make a video because again, she was getting just destroyed. There's people going back and forth. Why it blew up a lot is just, everyone had an opinion about it. Men, women, everybody, because of just the whole crying on camera and the scenario. So she was kind of getting destroyed. But when I saw her fake charity, all of a sudden where people could pay, I know the narrative that she's about to go with. I know you're not going to do a fake charity off of me. That never happened. And the fact that you have now, hundreds of thousands of people, feeling sorry or bad, and all of a sudden
Did you think the cancer might be coming back?
I figured that was going to be coming soon. That's all
and you're not going to believe this.
Yes. Yeah. On top of
the
it.
cancer came back.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just beat it too.
Yeah, I know.
It's crazy.
It was just a remission. Yes. And with her, it's like you just know like the next thing. And so when the pay button was open, that's when I was like, I should probably let people know that they probably should not donate to this person.
Right.
In my video though, because I was told that the FBI was already looking into the fake charity. So I didn't actually include it on my response video because I don't know, FBI investigation, I didn't know if I should.
Well, plus it's better the more money she gets donated. Like I don't want to stop people.
Potentially.
The more money she gets donated when the FBI finds out that's a fake charity and she's not, no, they'll be like, the more money she got, the higher the more months she's doing in prison.
I was gonna say, probably in hindsight, probably should have even just let that go. Yeah. But that was the thing I was worried about with people. But in hindsight, I mean, who knows how long that would have taken?
I forget. But you're concerned about people.
I know.
My concern is
get them in jail. Yeah.
You guys will lose a couple $100 a piece, but
yeah, they're gonna get it. Yeah. So that was, kind of that dilemma where I was like, all right, I should probably, say something. And then she deleted, with my response came out, like obviously everything had shifted and, and she went away. Like she deleted her account that night. And then Saturday, the next day, that's when she got on and just went into all the allegations of DV, financial abuse. Basically, she was a stay-at-home single mom, and I left her with no money. And it's like, does Gary know that? And then essentially. She mentioned I was a Scientologist. So there's this Scientology aspect, which opens up a whole nother.
Are you a Scientologist?
I'm not a Scientologist, no.
Because I saw this one thing where they were talking about. Oh no, was it the two women? The website. They mentioned it's in Clearwater is the home of Scientology. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I thought, what that ties in pretty good.
Well, and that exactly. And then there was a website that had some Scientology stuff on it. So they were thinking that, I built the website, I'm a Scientologist, all these things. And obviously if you're a Scientologist, you can't say you're not a Scientologist.
Right.
So for me, it was, bringing that up for her, it was another tactic of people being like, oh, that makes sense. Why he has a whole page about her and all these things, Scientologist, this and that.
Going after you for leaving the church or the marriage.
Right. And he's obviously abusive. And, obviously, she was a stay-at-home mom, so she had no money. Essentially all her narratives now that she was pushing jets ahead. And, I'm somewhat of a normal person. I have a job. I have the girl. Like, I have everything to lose, I guess, is what I would say.
Right.
So, like, do I want to get into and I don't do so. Like, I just started social media, and I've never my response video was the very first video I ever sat in front of a camera and like spoke in front of a camera to like post. All my other videos before that were like pieces of paper or like documents I would screenshot and like put words on it to like music and post. So this is the first time I'm like in front of a camera. So I'm like very not good at like social media that aspect. And this is going crazy viral. I'm like, I don't know if I want to get into this whole battle back and
TikTok
forth.
war,
right? And I'm like, I have a job, I have the girls. Like, she has nothing. Like, I have more to lose than she does, and she's better at social media than I am. And I can't cry on camera either. Right. I don't have that working against. I have that working against me. So, as this built up, and then the bigger creators took it over, they were starting to spread like her words, and it's like, well, her words are not true,
right? And
so it started really like on my page, I was just getting destroyed, attacked, and like, yeah, we do, the podcasts were coming out, and like this guy, all the like, I mean, I was destroyed,
Yeah, I saw some of them were the one where some of these women were just talking about her, like everything she said was gospel, and then they were like we said about the pictures of like, he says that she doesn't have custody of the kids and never sees them, and well, that's not true. She obviously has custody because I have photos. We've seen photos of her with her children. It's like, what does that fucking mean?
Right?
Like, it's not like he's not letting her see the kids.
Right.
I mean, she can see the kids.
Right.
A photo doesn't prove the truth of like.
Right.
What was the other thing that? Oh gosh, there was another one where they were. Oh, and then they completely disregarded the cancer thing. No, like they don't even address it. Those were
right.
Well, she's not perfect. Well, she's not perfect. She's a fraudster. Yeah. I know fraudster. She's a fraudster.
Yes.
Like,
well, that's what you're right. They started having this narrative like, well, we all make mistakes.
That's not a mistake. Listen, wait, trust me. You can't go in front of the judge and say, Your Honor.
Yeah,
we all make mistakes.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. Well,
yeah, it's like you can't just chalk this into the mistake pile. Yeah. Like, oh, we all live and learn. It's like, no, this is not
Your Honor. How many times have you faked cancer?
Right.
Yeah, we all do it.
Yeah, exactly. Like at least twice. Well, in her case, it's been 3 times now because again, going with different people. So
I feel like there's
it may
be just a brain tumor.
Yeah. Well, and if she ever, heaven forbid, does, can you imagine how? I don't think she's ever gonna be able to tell anybody. It's like if she actually gets, it's like I don't think she could ever tell a soul. Everyone's gonna be like, no, you don't. Like, so
well, she's got followers now.
She still has a pretty big following. Yeah,
that's insane.
And they're still. She posts. It's like, go off, sis. Like, pop off. Like, they're like. It's almost again from a mental health standpoint. It's like she doesn't need that. It's like they're encouraging this. like man, like you don't know the
some
help
people
there.
Loved it. Some people listen. Some people go to NASCAR to see him crash.
Yeah, well, and that's what it is. Yeah, and that's what's happened. Since she's gone private because she's trying to come back. I don't know if you saw the recent one, but she said she went to rehab a couple months ago, 25 days, right? And
rehab for what?
Yeah.
Is there a drug problem? Was there a drug problem in this whole thing?
Yeah, I actually told a joke on live the other day where I was like, this scenario where she got a dog and she gave it to Gary actually to watch and told
poor Gary.
Gary, yeah, but this dog was special. This dog can detect her seizures for her cancer. So Gary was watching this dog on the weekend so she could go hang out with her boyfriend. And so Gary's watching this seizure special dog, so I was basically just like, yeah, what do you go to rehab? Like, is there a pill for this pathology? Like this scenario that just happened, you made up a story about your dog being able to detect seizures. You gave it to Gary for every weekend so you can go out of town with your boyfriend. Like, I don't think that's take 3 pills and call me on Monday. Like, that is a deeply rooted, issue in a sense. Like, you just can't overlook that in 25 days, let alone probably 2 to 3 years, you know? So it is a 25-day treatment. Like, yeah, it's not really a drug rehab, is it? Is it for lying? Like, this is deeper. This is way deeper. You need 24-hour care for months at a time with many professionals. So she tried that angle, tried to come back, and people kind of trashed her.
her,
Yeah.
Well, there was
And then went private.
There was people saying, and who knows how true this is. Just my what I heard on this podcast coming over here is that this facility that she said she went to, she said she did 25 days outpatient when she was like going every single day. But outpatient, like you don't go every single day, and this facility only has like a 30 days the minimum that you could do. Or it's like there is no 25-day program.
Right.
And
It's not a 25-day program. And when she went off, said that she was going off social media to go to this and came back, it was like a tight 24, 25-day window. But yeah, the weekends they're supposedly not open. And, obviously they have a 30-day, not a 25. So basically on her video that she posted, we were kind of joking that she just walked up to the door and like touched the doorknob and then walked over, maybe asked for a brochure or something, but there's no way she went in there. So she's been trying to come back because, she has, like you said, she has still a huge following on there of these people that are still somewhat supportive and are still believing, not everyone, but a lot of people still believe this abusive narrative, escaping, and I'm keeping the kids from her and these different things. And so she's just obsessed with social media. And that's what I think the perfect storm of it all is. You have someone like me who never really been into social media, don't necessarily want to be in social media.
Right.
I'm kind of forced here, so I'm embracing it a little bit. But for her, she loves to go viral. She wants to go viral. This is what she wants to do. No problem lying about anything.
Right.
And so you have this perfect storm of like someone that has no lines, and me that's like, I don't even want to like say any lie or do anything like out of line, so to speak. So I try and keep my hands clean, and she has no problem, getting them dirty. And so when it got just so big, I still kept my page up because I just felt like it was the right thing to do. But I would post only like, back to like audio, like clips of like, I call it blue text, essentially like statements, because it just got so rough. I would do a live and they're just like, you're a RAP, like you're abuser, like basically like I'm just like, oh my gosh, like so it got kind of
they're
crazy.
such scumbags, and people are brazen in the in the comments. And I mean, there'll be guys that'll come on here and tell their story, and like I've seen 3 articles saying that they did this, all these things, and then guys will comment in the comment section. They'll write like, "He's lying. That never happened." I'm like, well, I saw his indictment. I know he was released from prison. Like I can see the release online. There's 3 articles about it. Like what part's he lying about? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you didn't do it. Some people just they're desperate to get in there and just be abusive as they can be. And it's like you don't know what's going on. You don't know what the situation is.
They're like trolls to the definition of just like, I just want to create chaos here.
Exactly.
And like no matter what, you can't even talk logic to them. I realized that early on. I don't even respond to half of them anymore because it's just like they want to misunderstand and they want to be right in a sense.
Well, it's like those women, like despite the divorce documents, despite the documentation that you're showing, she's at that time she was like $21,000 behind on child support.
Yeah.
Despite all this documentation I'm showing you, you saw a photo of a couple of kids, her with a couple of kids that you don't even know are these kids are the correct children.
Right.
And you're saying that photo has disproven everything else, and that you're now the liar, and she's telling the truth. Right. And because you saw a photo.
Right. Exactly. And that's the thing. Like when I did that video, I knew that's why I kind of posted like, some screenshots from the actual divorce document. Like I try and hit some of the, the quick hitters, like, hey, she fake cancer, stole $1 million, those quick things, because, again, even with the receipts, they were like, oh, you're lying. And it's like, she hasn't showed you all she did was say words and has not shown you a single receipt and cried. And somehow that is 100% fact.
She said she was cooking her own birthday cake when she was actually cooking. They were actually cupcakes. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not a cake; it's cupcakes. But that's fine too. I get
that's one of the first red flags.
It's a minor distinction.
Exactly. So that was her headspace, and with that video, and just it took off, and she just. I kind of asked her right afterwards. I was just like, I really think you should take this down because I did not want to have to really come forward, but she also used that against me. She was like, oh, he was scared that I would talk about all his abuse. And so she kind of used that in like a double sense. But in my mind, I was like, well, I have all this stuff and I don't want to, but I will in a sense. So, and it kind of baited me. I think she deep down didn't think I would ever. I'm still a little shocked sometimes that I have gone and done it, but because it's just, you're as a victim, you think they're just so confident in their control over you and that you're going to stay silent.
Right. So how many views did your video get?
About 4 million.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. One of the 100, but I'll take it.
Right. I wonder if her page is monetized, because you can monetize a TikTok page.
Yep.
And then she could go on and be just a professional pathological liar and just continue all kinds of lies. And she's got a following. People will view it, and she can talk about how she could work for NASA.
Exactly. And that's kind of, where she started doing is like, not NASA, but she was saying that she was working in like medical sales and then doing this job. So like she kind of was continuing to, her status quo, if you will, because now she had a following, which she always wanted, and was able to present this fake life that she was living and bash me at the same time.
Well, what about
it's a win-win for her all the way around.
Go girl.
Yeah.
Remember the girl that said she had an affair with an FBI agent? And,
yes.
Yeah.
Stalked by the feds.
Yeah, stalked by the feds. There's a woman stalked by the
Is
feds.
that a real thing? I saw a couple clips on it.
Yeah, she's
Well,
she says that she is. She was supposed to come on the program a couple of times and kind of flaked. And I don't think she'll ever come on. So, it's just based on her behavior. Like she supposedly went to, where did she go? Was it Thailand?
Another country.
It's somewhere like Thailand. I don't think it is Thailand, but first it was, she was being stalked. Like she started by saying she had an affair. And then because she had an affair with an FBI agent who was married, and she told his wife, they started an investigation on her.
And they're following her, right?
Yeah, and accusing her of fraud and started an investigation. And it got so bad, she finally just fled. And it took months where she was posting. But keep in mind, I'm sure it's monetized. Her page is monetized. She's getting millions of views on every single video.
Yeah.
So this is now funding her lifestyle. So she's continuing it, and she ends up talking about how she's trying to leave the country, and then she does leave the country, and now she's doing ones on is it called gang stalking?
Yes, that was. It's funny you mentioned it because I never see her stuff, but I saw her stuff like a day ago. Gang stalker.
Yeah.
I don't know whatever that is, but she's like, this is a gang stalker.
So it's when you've been targeted by people in general, and they start. So groups of people start stalking you.
Really?
And so. Really? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, go with it.
Yeah, like you're in another country and you're being targeted by a mass. Apparently, tons of people are a part of this organization. They start stalking you.
Really?
And they'll stare at you in a restaurant. Everybody, like tons of them, or they'll start following you. They're stalking you.
This is her new.
Yeah. So she's basically is being, it's what is the term where you're being, plagued or persecuted. So she's got some kind of and listen, maybe she had, I don't know. Maybe she did have an affair. Maybe she did tell the wife. Maybe they did start an investigation. Stranger things have happened, but now it's switched to gang stalking. And she also, she didn't come on and talk about it. And I don't think anybody's ever really seen any proof. And some of the videos, she would take her phone and zoom in on like a car. And she's like, that car's been parked there for 3 days. They're watching me. And I'm like, first of all, if they're watching you from the distance they're not great at it. Like this car is
I was gonna say
3 football fields away. Yeah. Like I don't, and it looks like it's just parked in front of somebody's house. Like, I mean, you can't just randomly pick cars and say it's FBI cars.
Yeah.
I don't know what they look like, but I don't see, like this car you would think would be closer. I don't think these people would know if you left your house.
Yeah, exactly. So, they're not doing a good job over there.
No, they're horrible at surveillance. But So she started sounding crazy, but now, yeah, she's in another country talking about gang stalking and that she's being targeted by gang stalking. And I'm sure she's connected it to the FBI officer.
It's the new agency.
Yeah.
that
I mean,
is
her-
continuing the investigation.
I mean, her Instagram is stalked by the feds after a relationship with federal officer enforcement ended badly, raising awareness about multiple perpetrator stalking. GoFundMe account.
There you go.
4,800 raised.
4,800, but if the channel is monetized,
Yeah.
she could be making 5 or 10 or
I
15,000.
think that TikTok has recently been banned
Really?
because there's the top video I clicked on because I couldn't find her account. The comments are, if she was a fraud, she wouldn't have been banned at 4 hours. She's been banned everywhere. This was 10 days ago.
She wouldn't?
I don't know. She's at least
She was a fraud.
she has
She
been
would
banned.
have been banned.
Yeah.
And there's one account that just says, stalked by the feds 2.0. It's private. There is no TikTok anymore. So who knows?
Could be. I know they did change the policies recently.
Yeah.
Did some
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. They're not being so okay with you with the fraudulent. They're more.
Yeah, they're a little
bit more
tighter.
Yeah.
And it's so vague and so hard to get answers. They can pretty much do what they want.
Yeah, most likely. So yeah,
But she's out there.
crazy.
But I'm
so
saying,
you've been in contact with her.
yeah, that woman. Yeah, I've talked to her several times.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
I think I talked to her on the phone once, and then I talked to her like probably a week before she was leaving, and we were going to try and do the remote podcast. And then she said, you know what? Once I get then the last minute she kind of said, hey, look, let me get there. I'm supposed to have good Wi-Fi, whatever. So then she gets there and she says, okay, I think the Wi-Fi is okay, but I don't have a laptop. And I was like, okay, you really need a laptop. Like you really just can't. You can do it off your phone, but there's major problems involved.
Imagine.
And it's just a much more smoother process. And I'm not hurting for content. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, well, and she's like, give me a couple days and I will get a laptop. Then a couple days later, she was going to get a laptop. Then she couldn't get it. Then she was going to borrow a laptop. And I'm thinking, who are you borrowing a laptop? You've been in this country for a week.
Out of country, yeah.
You know, then it was, I don't think the Wi-Fi is very good here. I was like, I thought the Wi-Fi was amazing there.
Yeah.
You know, like, and then it just got to a point where I was tired of going, like,
Yes,
this is not
it's
this
gonna be
worth
an
it.
issue.
I could have scheduled 3 other people.
Yeah. And you're in this world so much. You
get
probably know it.
You
like,
get the feeling when you first meet these guys.
Yeah.
Like some of these guys, like this guy will show up. He'll be good. I talked to this guy. I would be very surprised if he's here when he says
Yeah,
he's
and
gonna
we've
be
had
here.
those conversations.
Yeah, I imagine, especially. I mean, I don't know how long you've been doing this part of it, but
over 4 years.
Yeah, so yeah,
Yeah.
you're knowing probably within
Yeah, I was gonna say, and
maybe a conversation and a half if needed.
yeah, I have a pretty good sense about people. Like, you know, where we'll and we always say too, is that if they're a problem from the very get go, you know what I'm saying, they're a nightmare about getting them here. You know,
Right.
It's like typically it's the guys that you know are going to show up, that I feel confident are going to show, is the guy that he texts you, he says, hey, you know, gives you 3 paragraphs on his story, scheduled the time to talk to you. You talk to him on the phone. He can tell you his whole story in a 5-minute version.
Yeah.
You know, 5 or 10 minutes. He says, hey, I can be here at this time, this time. You say yes. He says, great, no problem. I will be there. And you can feel the confidence,
Right.
and you know, I don't have to hold this guy's hand.
Right.
And I don't like that either. I can't stand that when it's like,
But you got a lot of stuff going on.
yeah, well, but you know, when the guys look, where am I gonna, what, how much is the airplane cost? And is there, you know, are you gonna pick me up? And are you listen, bro, you're a grown man.
Yeah.
You can get yourself here.
Yeah.
Call the airline. You're
want you-
flying into Tampa International Airport. I'm 25 minutes from the airport. Get yourself an Uber. Like, come on, bro.
They want you to be personal assistant.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
You know, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure if Joe Rogan was going to have you on, you wouldn't expect. You know, I'll just show. Listen, when
Give me that address and I'll be there.
Yeah.
yeah, when Lex Friedman was like, look, I'll be at this hotel at this time. I'll meet you in the lobby. Got it.
Yeah.
I hung up the phone. I don't need to know anything else. I will text you when I'm in the lobby. So, but yeah, and we schedule about 7 a week to get 3 or 4 people just to show up. Because
Yeah.
that many people cancel, you know?
Well, I know with my kids, I have
Yeah.
like all those things.
Well,
Like,
and here, look, sometimes things happen. Somebody gets into an accident, something happens,
Yeah.
right? You know, yours was the kids. That's another thing when I was watching the videos. He this, he that. And I'm like, well, I know he's got the kids.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
we've had many conversations where you're like, look, let me see if I can get off on this day.
Yeah.
I got to get a babysitter.
yeah,
Let me call.
It's an ordeal a lot
Yeah.
of times. And that's what happened the first time when I was actually going to be off sick. It's like, and then
Right.
they switched things. But so I appreciate you
And all,
working with me.
and all of this stuff that we just covered, it is all still kind of like unfolding. Like people are talking, like this podcast that we've been referring to that we listened to just to get some background information. Like this was just posted 10 days ago.
Yeah. And, I don't know if you watched the first one. Did you ever see the first one they did a year ago?
No, but I know
It was a year ago?
Right after it came out,
Right.
they did I listened to the first 20 minutes a year ago, and I was just like, I had to turn it off because it was just not good like for me. And plus, everything that was out there, I was like, that's not true. Now they did a lot of research and kind of was like, we redeeming it, like, hey, we got this wrong, and really deep dived and did a really, good job on this one. So now I'm like, okay, now that they said this, I'll go back and listen to the first one
Right.
and see. Because in real time, I was just like, oh no, this is another whatever podcast, basically telling them how horrible I am,
Right.
So, but yeah, so they had the first one a year ago when it first came out, and then they just did this one redeeming. Which is pretty good. I don't know how far you got into it, but they did. It
I
was
probably watched
mostly
I probably watched an hour of
it's
it.
a lot. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean they spent
It's-
they spent 40 minutes on the fake cancer
I was
diagnosis.
gonna say the cancer stuff they went deep in.
and they're providing every picture, every screenshot, everything. So
Yeah.
it's like the amount of research and time
It's-
going
yeah.
into that before
Yeah.
they just sit down and talk about it. is a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, we're not
Well,
running that kind of
yeah, no,
Yeah,
yeah,
we're,
yeah.
we're just going
That's not
directly
our
to the
operation.
source. We're going directly to the source.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and if you do need any, I know where the screenshots are. So if you do want to put anything up that you're not sure about, I can't find it. I know exactly what video,
Right.
roughly what video I could send you, like certain
Yeah,
things. So
I'm gonna upload the main cupcake video, and that's for the most part.
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean whatever you
we'll be
need
all we
on
need.
it. But yeah, let me know because definitely it's like they're getting all the research, all that. But that's all from me. Like all that stuff they got was really besides the Google searches, but like they're retelling, my story in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
Same with the Elizabeth podcast. Like the first 3 episodes have been them kind of retelling, which I wasn't expecting that. I thought they were going to go into which they are going to do now, but they just been retelling kind of my story. And then they're getting into other people that knew her. So they're kind of branching
So
out.
what happened to what's the status on Gary? What's the 2025 status on Gary?
Yeah. So Gary is. I think up until recently. I mean, I tried to get a hold of Gary for several years. Gary, up until last year, probably what are we in? Yeah, end of 24. Yeah. So we're basically within 6 months. So end of 24, going in 25. His ex-wife found out that Gary sold all his property. He sold everything. I mean, he had no. Yeah,
He's trying to save Elizabeth's life. For God's
he
sakes.
did.
The man's a saint.
He did. He did. He's a hero. He's of Gary's day. So he's been selling houses of his family's. It's like his mom, but the catch of it all is that all those properties were going to be his kids, him and his ex-wife's kid. They have a kid together.
Mm-hmm.
So the house, like all this investment, all this money was going to be inherited and sent to their child.
Right.
Well, the ex-wife found out that he sold everything. So now there's no inheritance for their kid together. And so she confronted him and was like, you sold this house, this, like you're an idiot. Like, what are you doing? So he still would not reach out to me or do anything until the ex-wife basically gave him like an ultimatum. She's like, you have screwed our son. He has no inheritance now. You need to go to the police. Like, you need to go to the police now. And he reluctantly, he basically, if it was up to him, he would probably have done nothing as he has been, but she forced him to go to the police, file a report. And I don't know what's come of it, but he has filed a couple reports. I told him to talk to the people in Tampa, the one that was in the police station, because it's a similar story how theirs are. Like I said, you got to get these jurisdictions talking to each other because they seem like one-offs, but you had the same story essentially that they had. So it didn't get haven't got any money back, and really
He's not going to get any money back.
no, he's not. And he's really not gonna wouldn't have ever pursued anything in my mind unless the ex-wife basically yelled at him and told him to go do something, because he was just not. And when I talked to him recently, that's how I found out about the dog story with when he got left with a dog. Like he finally called me actually about 2-3 months ago.
Like, will you come get this dog?
Yeah, well, yeah. I couldn't help laughing because he was just like, that dog, it could detect seizures, right? And I was like, no, it could not. And he's like,
oh, Gary.
He's like,
if you had any money left at all, I'd take it from you.
Yeah, I mean, I felt so bad because like all these little lies that he had so much hope in, that was like, and it's like, no, that never happened. Like, what about this or that? Like he goes, did you punch her at a bar, outside of Cora, like whatever bars out there? I go, Gary, you think I punched my ex-wife in broad daylight,
All right,
and just walked away? Like, no, that never happened. She goes, well, she told me that she couldn't meet me to give money back because she felt, because I punched
Had
her.
a black eye.
She had to go to the hospital.
$800,000 back.
Yeah, she had to go to the hospital, and you were being arrested and all this stuff. And I broke in. I'm like, no, Gary, like, no. So up until months ago, he is still down bad, and I feel believing like his world is just, he's got to relearn how to do everything, because everything he knows is a lie. He's been inceptionized.
He's stuck with this epileptic dog, seizure
Yeah.
dog.
Well, he finally dropped it off at her house one day, and she 2 days later went to the pound with it. He's like, yeah, I kept this dog for like a year and a half, thinking that it was this special seizure cancer dog, and she never gave me money for food. I went out to not like this guy's been, and he didn't want the dog to begin with, but he did it as a favor. And she's like, the moment I gave it to her in the house, he's like, by the end of the week, the dog was already at the pound. And he was like, just so disappointed that, like, man, I kept that dog for so long, and she just cast it aside.
One of the stories I heard on the lady's podcast was when she went to like a vacation with some dude in Hawaii. She had these dogs that she just had at an Airbnb. And just put food in there, locked the door, and then the cops went to serve her some type of papers. Eventually got in, and there's just dogs, just the 2 dogs, or how many ever, whatever.
Yeah, so that's actually so she went to Hawaii in February with her current boyfriend at the time, that literally hates her, because he texted me and told me how much he hates her in January. It's actually quite hilarious. So December 31st, he's texting me how much, he's like, I hate her. She's lying to me about this, bounce checks, like all this stuff. And then in February, I see them go to Hawaii, and I'm like, what's up with this? Like, you were just telling me how much you hate her. So I posted the conversation of like, hey, you hate her, but you went to Hawaii. Well, they get back from Hawaii, and then my ex-wife and her roommate were evicted from their place. And so she went to Hawaii instead of paying any bills, as she always does. So they were evicted, and they had 2 dogs. And so she went to go live with a boyfriend, and they couldn't take the dogs. So the dog stayed. She left them, basically abandoned them. Well, because she was being served for a podcast lawsuit, the server came and saw each day, like, these dogs are getting more and more unwell. Like, there's trash everywhere. They're in their own feces. So the process server was like calling animal control. And so animal control came out, and she played it off. She goes, oh, there was supposed to be like a Rover app sitter to go get them. And she did. She ended up getting a Rover app sitter to come get the dogs, and then she left them with a Rover app sitter dog.
Poor bastard.
And then she started looking in online, and she actually contacted me, and she's like, hey, do you have any ownership to these dogs? I'm like, no, they're not mine. It's like, well, do you want to come? I'm like, no, I don't want anything to do with them. I'm like, I am good. Like, that's the last thing I need right now. So she never paid the sitter to watch them, didn't give them food. I think she eventually had to give them the pound, because she was never coming to get them.
I mean, you're basically like a child if you go out and adopt an animal that you cannot take care of, and then you're just giving it back to the pound. And you go buy another animal and you take care of it until it's a pain, until it's a problem, and then you just abandon it and give it back to the pound. You go get another animal. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're that's a child mentality. Like, you're not able to think.
Should not be in charge of people, kids,
Right.
or animals. Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, she just, that's fortunately doesn't appreciate anything because she's never really earned it. And so it's like she steals money and uses it. So she just everything to her can be thrown away. It's objects, people, even dogs. It's crazy.
Do you have any questions?
No, I think I'm good.
So, I mean, and you can answer this however you want.
I am going to ask my wife to see our bank account. I am. I just realized, as you've been talking, I've been thinking, I have never checked on our bank
Really?
account.
Yeah.
She tells me, like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's probably good, but
it's probably fine, but
this is probably a 1 in a million.
Let's get the
But exactly.
so like, what's the dynamic to this day? Like, how do you guys navigate this relationship, if any? Like, is there contact at all? Like, what's that like? And you can say whatever you want.
Yeah. So I try to always, for the girls, keep even everything that she's done, all the TROs. She filed 4 up until last year. It was 4 or 5. I can't. It's sad, but I can't keep them all straight. But I've always kept lines of communication open. But with all the online stuff, she filed another one against me, and I was just like, you know what? At this point, I can't protect. If I can't protect myself, I can't protect them.
Right.
Every communication that I would have with her, whether that was on the phone or via text, would be used against me. Like, you're harassing me, you're bothering me. You called me 20 times, and it's like, yeah, well, I'm calling you for them. No, it's never about them. Or she's always manipulating. So I realized I just had to cut off. So after the last TRO she filed last year, she filed it in July. There was some things, it got delayed, but basically by September, October, it got dismissed. And I made a decision at that point. You have to go through the courts. Like, I'm tired of being, and I don't want to be your middleman for them anymore either. It's written up this way. I've been nice in allowing her to go around the courts to be able to contact me. Like, when I was sleeping on the couch, last year, 6 months or whatever it was, like, I basically, I didn't have to do all that stuff. And all my kindness has always just been thrown back when it doesn't, work in her favor. So October, I blocked her, and I made the decision to have no communication with her. And so I have not. She did call in end of October, and we spoke for like 2 minutes because she was just more lies. I just, all the things she says at this point, I'm just like, okay, yep, have a good one. Like, it doesn't even like get me. I'm not emotionally like invested or manipulated like it would be in the past. Like, oh my gosh, that happened. It's just like, I don't have time for this. Like, so for me at this point, there's been no communication on the phone, and obviously that hurts a little bit for the girls. But at this point too, she hasn't seen them since June of 24, so we're coming up on a whole year of her seeing them. So I just don't feel like it's good to like just pop on and call them for 5-10 minutes and hang up at this point.
Right.
So at this point, it's been blocked communication since October, really only through email, because I want to document everything. And I've told her, you got to go through the courts. Like, go to the courts, tell them that you're healthy, because psych evaluation, as you can imagine, after all this, that was my first requirement. And we presented everything to say, this is why, obviously some people just want to throw that in there and then there's no reason, but we threw it in there and we had all this reason to be like, look at the mental health here.
Yeah, she's not mentally well.
Right. Not only the faking cancer, but spending almost $1 million in 6 months. Like, so essentially that was the first requirement. So it's like, I've been letting you get around that. So at this point, I've cut communication, and you can go through the courts, do it the right way. If they say you're healthy enough to be around them, I don't want to be involved in like the reintroduction either. Contact a therapist. You guys, court ordered whatever it is, and do reintroduction, because the girls are going to have a lot of questions. Like, that's when they'll need to really probably dive into some kind of therapy, have someone to talk to, because this is going to be emotional handling that I'm not ready for. So at this time, it's really been pushed back to handle this through take me back to court, show the courts you're healthy. I don't want to do anything outside of court anymore, because I'm just tired of given the opportunity to have more fake restraining orders, it cost me more money, and also have the opportunity to say, because again, like you said earlier, like I won't put it past her at this point if we're around each other. Hey, he hit me, and she'll push that envelope at this point, because I think she's at a point where in the past she didn't push that envelope or lie about the when the cops came.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't trust. I feel like if we met at a park, hey, you hit me,
Right.
and it's like, oh my god. So I didn't want to deal with her behavior in a sense and putting me in jeopardy.
Yeah. I wouldn't. I definitely would not try. And the problem is her going through. It's unlikely she makes the effort to go through the courts, because that's a cumbersome process. So, and she doesn't seem like somebody who wants to put that much effort into.
Right.
And just like you were saying, like, you bring the kids over there, and she's like, hey, can you do this? No, this is what being a parent is.
Right. Exactly.
I'm sitting here so that you don't take off with my kids.
Right. She wants the convenience of it. And and that's why I didn't really, the divorce process, it was very tedious. I thought times it wasn't a certain way, but I get it. It had to be a process. It had to really be this time consuming and covering all the bases. And that's something that she wants no part of. She doesn't want to, she wants the shortcut, the quick and easy. If she has to spend the time and do all the steps, she's going to do it for a day, a week, especially with, I would love to know what her treatment would be for the psychoval. I don't think it'd be a 25-day outpatient.
No.
So
what's funny is I had read that they actually have medication that they will put like pathological liars on, but it's kind of like people that they put on bipolar medication. I'm not saying it's the same medication.
Right, but same effects kind of thing.
Well, what I'm saying is bipolars, there's medication that helps not get rid of it, but it helps mitigate the control the the flare-ups, let's say. The problem is that it feels good to be bipolar. It feels good, the ups, they feel good, and you don't get the ups anymore.
Right.
And so what happens is after a few weeks or a month or two when they've been on it, they start wanting that feeling. They miss that feeling, and they don't want to take the medication. Same thing with the pathological liars. There's medication that I don't know exactly what it does, but whatever it does is it allows you to control this impulse to lie, the pathology or whatever. So you no longer feel compelled to do it as much, and you can get control of it, but you don't feel good anymore. So you don't get that excitement and that thrill, and now you're almost feel because of that, because it is such an endorphin rush. You almost feel depressed.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to feel depressed.
Right.
Give me a month or so of feeling depressed. I'd be like, man, I'm not taking that medication anymore.
Right.
And that's the problem is they don't want to take the medication.
And that's exactly what I was thinking as well. Because like, what is the treatment for this? Like, and all of a sudden a judge says, hey, you can spend the time. Well, what's the effect if she doesn't want to take the medication on a Friday night? What's going to happen by Sunday? Yeah. Her taking the medication and falling through the treatment, like you said, that could be a whole nother element of it, because she could quit that. Hey, I don't want to take it anymore. Well, then do I got to take her back to court? Do I got to,
Right.
I
don't know if that's even a normal treatment. I just know that when I was reading the research, they were talking about how they could put them on this type of a drug. And they said the problem with that drug is that once it levels them off, they don't want to. They immediately want to get off the medication because they no longer have that endorphin rush at all.
I was gonna say they're not feeling alive in a sense.
Right. Which to me, I thought, oh wow, that's the same thing with bipolar. Because I know people that are bipolar. The chick I was on the run with was bipolar, and I made her go to a psychiatrist. She got prescribed the medication, and multiple times she'd get on it. Within 5 or 6 weeks, she'd stop taking it. She'd be like, I thought I was better. I don't like the way it makes me feel. And then 3 months later, I'd be like, look, I'm leaving you.
Yeah.
And then she'd get back on it, and 6 weeks later, she's off it again.
Yeah.
And
that's probably almost as bad too.
Right. Oh, I could tell. I could tell because she was insane.
Yeah.
And I could sense it. Like you could sense that. And you know what I think? That's,
I can tell you're about to be off this.
Yeah, I could tell. Like, oh, you're you're just barely holding it together. I could feel the tension right now in the air.
Oh my goodness.
Pick up on those cues.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's like my dad was an alcoholic, and he would go on drunken. He'd get sober for 6 months or a year, and before anybody knew, really, before there was real evidence that he's drunk. Like he's slurring his words. He's
right
within a day or two before that. Because initially he could drink for a day or two before you really noticed anything.
He's not good at the binge.
But you could feel it. You could walk in and you'd be like,
the energy's off.
Yes, like something's up. Like he's off. He's not acting like he's a drunken, screaming lunatic and angry and everything like normal, but you can feel that tension in the air. You could feel it within a day or two. And then within a day or two, he's definitely slurring his words. He's yelling, "Where's my such and you're fucking lying." You're like, I fucking knew this 2 days ago. I knew 2 days ago you were fucking going to be a lunatic.
I stepped out for a couple days. Saw this coming.
Right. It's time to go visit somebody for a couple weeks. Let's get this out of your system. Wait for you to end up in the rehab again.
Off the wagon.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. Like, so I wonder if that's a trick, like that's part of their thing, or do they just say no? You're gonna go, but going to a psychiatrist or a psychologist or something. These people aren't changing. It's just not. They're hard. It's hardwired in.
I've come to that conclusion. Like when going through the divorce and putting that in there, I used to feel like there could be help, and obviously, as being the mother and things like that. I wanted her to have help for them.
Yeah.
And I always thought there was hope for help. But I'll be honest, like once it was signed, and maybe not even when it was signed, but I started realizing pretty soon after, it's like, I don't think there's any help. No. And if there was help, she's not going to go and do anything.
Right.
So.
Well, and like with most mental health issues, as you get older, it tends to get worse and worse. Like when you're younger, most people are it's like with bipolar condition, you don't notice it that bad as when they're young and they're teenagers. It's when they get to be 20, 30, 40. And by the time they're in their 50s, like they're on the street.
Yeah, I was going to say their whole life.
Prison.
Like
they got nobody, no family, nobody wants anything. They're just lunatics.
Yeah, I was going to say that the life has just been imploded.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same thing with like schizophrenics, like they're borderline in their 20s, but by their 30s, 40s, by their 50s, they're screaming at traffic, and they're standing in the middle of a intersection with a tinfoil hat screaming at fucking traffic, and hiding from aliens. I mean, you're full blown. Like,
the progression.
There's no downtime for you at this point. It's straight insanity.
Years.
So, this will be my last question because I think it might be a loose end that the audience might want to know. So has she addressed any of the, her TikTokers? Like, what about the cancer? Like, has she addressed it head on, or is she pretty vague? Like what is?
Yeah, so she's given really one answer when on lives and different things. She won't address it at all really anymore, but she addressed it like one time. There's a clip where she says that it was exaggerated on the internet. She never had stage 4, but she did have stage 1. So that's the only time she has ever mentioned that she did have it, but it was stage 1. But even though you pull up,
it's treatable with what medication?
I mean, I think sunshine and I don't know, cat kisses. I don't know, but yeah. So like, she's still defending that she did have cancer, even though the lymphoma journey that she posted, stage 4, everything says stage 4, stage 4. So she's saying that it got exaggerated to stage 4. It was only stage 1, and she definitely had it. And so that's the only time she's ever, and it was on a live. It wasn't even like a video that she posted it and kept up. It was on a live for like someone caught it and screen recorded it. Mm-hmm. Other than that, on any other videos or comment sections, it is straight up blocked, immediate delete, and then probably an immediate block. Like it's probably a filtered. Like if you go to her page and even try to type in the message cancer, it's probably filtered. Like you probably couldn't even complete it. So she has not addressed it beyond that, and refuses to. Which kind of what I've always said too is like, if you're a cancer survivor, you'd probably have that in your bio. Like, it's kind of a big deal,
Yeah,
So,
right.
Like, how many cancer survivors are out there telling you that they, haven't survived? That's a pretty proud thing
Stage 4.
Yeah. I mean, you'd be pretty proud about that. So it's definitely, but no, she's been very, I mean, we'll not talk about it at all.
Well, good for her for beating it.
Yeah. I'm proud of her.
I'm glad this podcast ended on a good note.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. These topics, like this whole thing. Yeah. It's,
Hey, you guys, I appreciate you watching. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified of videos just like this, and share the video to anybody you think might be interested. Also, we're going to leave the link to Andrew's TikTok and Instagram in the description box, so you can click on it, go over there. You've got the whole series broken down, so you can go through the entire series of this epic journey, which will make you want to stay single, to be honest.
and if you do YouTube, I have the long format on YouTube.
Oh, you do on
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
cool.
so-
And also there's on YouTube long form. So we're gonna put all of the links in the descriptions. You can click on them, shoot right over there, subscribe, follow, do all of that, and watch all that content. And once again, I appreciate you watching. Please consider joining our Patreon. It's $10 a month. We also have a couple of shorts channels and a clips channel. Those links are also in the description. Well, actually, they're not even in the description. You guys just go on the channel, and we have links in the channel where you can click on them and go. Anyway, I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you. See ya.